they're starting right there.
Okay.
They're going to continue to tape right through any breaks or anything like that. So you might just want to think about that for if you're thinking about sidebar conversations. Might not be the best place to have sidebar conversations.
All right, calling the budget workshop for Saturday, January 26, 2019, Neshoba Regional School District to order at, sorry we're late, 8:17. Today's meeting's not a regular meeting. It's a workshop, so we aren't going to take formal citizens' comments, and actually we can't really have comments on something we don't know yet. So what we'll do is I'll ask the school committee members for the public if anybody has comments. We are going to, over the next several meetings, be reiterating many of the things that we hear here tonight. We'll also be going back and challenging some of the things that we hear tonight before we get to our final adoption of the budget, which needs to, by our bylaw and our regional agreement, happen by March 15th. So there will be time to comment. I'm going to ask the school committee, when we have folks come up to the table, let's let them get through their presentation. And then if we have clarifying questions, let's ask today, but debates, what I'd like you to do is note the subject areas that you think we need to have more discussion on. I'll keep a running tally of those, and then we'll ensure that those happen over the next several meetings so we have more dedicated time just to that singular topic. I think that way we'll get through what we need to get through and not let things slip through the cracks, but allow these folks to get through their presentations and what they want to share with us. Okay, I think that's it. So I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Clenchey.
Thank you. Before we get started, I just want to introduce, probably more for the cameras and the community than around the table. We have a couple of additional people sitting in the audience today. We want to recognize that. Of course, Alita, we always want to thank Alita for all of the background work that she does and helping to get everything organized for us. Tom's not sitting in the room right now, but we want to do a special shout out to Tom and thank him very much for providing the food. He and his staff just did an outstanding job. Also, sitting beside Pat is Michelle Cody. I think she may have been in some of your other meetings, but she does yeoman's work on this. It is her that prepares this binder. It's her that plugs so many of the numbers in back and forth and does the double and triple checks and whatnot. And so she's just a key pivotal part of this process. Also at the back of the room is Vicki Chartier. Maybe just wave your hand, Vicki, who is our treasurer, and she is a human resource specialist. And she's been before you before, but I just wanted to reintroduce her as well. And Darcy Wardwell is also sitting too. Darcy, just wave your hand. Darcy is here. She also helps extensively with regards to the payroll and the salary component of pulling our budget together. So they both also play huge roles in particularly the salary component of the budget. So we want to thank all of you for being here. Before we start with the first group, which is our elementary school principals, I just want to say again, this is just a draft. It's a blueprint that we work from in terms of the actual budget. We're going to go through some salient points in the presentation, but this is all draft, and you'll see at the bottom it says draft on many of the sheets. So that's why this is not out for disseminating to the public right now. There will be major changes made to this already on Monday. So this is our blueprint. This is where we start. I also agree with Chairman Ramos. The bottom line for today is to have everybody who's in charge of a school or a unit to come forward and basically lay out what their asks are, how it ties in with their school, their vision, and the work that they're already doing, and the work that they foresee doing, and the through line for that. What I really appreciate this year is both the elementary school principals will present collectively, and then when the middle school principals come together, they will present collectively too. That should send a clear message of the through line and the equity that we have worked so hard to achieve across this district in terms of instruction and curriculum. So I'm thrilled with that. So we're going to get right to the meat of this. I'm going to ask the elementary principals to come forward. Everybody knows that we are working very hard to be succinct with what we're presenting today, and we're wanting to stay on time. So,
as you guys are coming to the table, school committee next Wednesday, our school committee meeting.
Joel,
I will not be here. Kathy will be chairing the meeting, just an FYI. Okay? Unavoidable.
Absolutely, thank you. So with that, then, we're going to turn this over to our elementary school principals to kind of get started and walk us through what you've got on your presentation.
You want us to follow along in here?
You could follow along in both places. This will give you kind of the lay of the land in terms of the salient points. And then, of course, the booklet, if you go over to tab 4, is where your elementary schools are.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to meet with you to present our budget request for the 2019-2020 school year. As the first principle on the agenda to present budget, I'm going to present 2 items that all 3 elementary buildings have in common. In our non-salary site-based budgets, we strive to be collaborative and calibrated in much of the work that we do, and these 2 items are no exception. As the school committee is aware, in the elementary buildings, we are in the midst of a multi-year literacy initiative. A major component of that initiative is the professional development that teachers are engaged in with regards to assessment and instruction. In order to support the needs of students, each elementary building is again requesting funding to support the ongoing development of our book rooms. The purpose of a book room is different than a school library, in that a school library is open for choice of books. Book rooms provide a school-wide resource to put text in the hands of students that support the skills they are developing in reading and writing within the classroom. Across all 3 buildings, we are seeing major gains in empowerment and learning from our students due to this initiative and the hard work of our staff. These resources support those goals. The second item that's common to all 3 buildings is the purchase of science curriculum materials. After pilot phase with the STEM Scopes program, which is purchased through Teaching and Learning previously, we'll be stepping into an implementation of the STEM Scopes program. The content is aligned with next generation science standards and provides critical thinking skills through hands-on and paper-based resources. This is another area in which we are seeing students empowered and pushing their own learning. Are there any questions with regards to those 2 items before?
So those are the very first
Yep.
2 items on the sheet. Thank you. By the way, your book, I haven't seen your book rooms yet, but I've certainly been in yours. It's amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
We have lots of nice parent volunteers who came in over the summer. So.
Thank you, Elaine.
Yes. With regards to center, thank you again for the opportunity to present the budget request, both personnel and non-salary. Our requests reflect both district and school goals and support the ongoing success that we have at center. With regards to personnel requests, the first request comes in the form of an intervention-based instructional assistant to work at the K-1 level. We often have students that need additional support with social emotional learning as well as academics. This includes just basic readiness for learning and academic needs at that level. The position would be to support students on an intervention basis and to prevent the need for an educational evaluation and potential IEP. This position would receive direction from not only the administrative staff, but also counseling staff and potentially the special education staff at that grade level on implementing short-term intervention plans for our youngest students. The next request that's being made is with regards to the tech ed position that supports our 5th graders. The request is for a 0.2 FTE to teach the tech ed curriculum to those 5th graders. Currently, this position is being filled by the Minuteman Tech Ed position that's based out of the Hale Middle School. Over the last few years, Hale has increased the number of sections of related arts for each grade level due to enrollment increases. Therefore, the Minuteman personnel has less opportunity in their schedule to come to center. So we're looking for someone to fill that position to make that opportunity mirror what happens at also Rowlandson and Sawyer.
Yeah.
Let me ask a couple questions. Your intervention position, is that because you see a need now or that you anticipate additional need?
We've seen a need. I think in each one of the school years that I've been, I'm now in my 4th year at center, we've had a student and potentially students at K-1 that have needed additional support, and going through the IEP process, the educational evaluation process, sometimes happens, sometimes it does not. But in the spirit of response to intervention, we have great support staff, whether it's OT, speech, our counselors, special education staff, that can create plans and design plans, but those students require additional support during the school day to implement those plans and to teach those social emotional skills, those school readiness skills, so that those kids can access instruction. And that's one of the gaps that we have. We're able to design the plans, but the implementation sometimes comes up short due to personnel.
So I see great value in this, and there's no question about that.
Mhm.
And I'd love to get in early and take care of what you need to take care of and do what you can to set them up for success.
Mhm.
My question is, what if you don't have enough kids? What would the backfill and additional cycles for that resource be applied to?
So in that case, my best thinking on that would be that that person, or somehow we look at the needs of if we end up with more instructional assistant support, we then have to share with Hale or with another building. I think that's one thing that we try to do. If we have an overage of something, we need to make sure that we're supporting other buildings with that position. It probably would not be that specific position, that FTE, because it's designed as an intervention based. But if that picks up something in first grade that's under an IEP,
You could move.
we could move a different, right, that would be under more of a district budget and a district accounting code that would,
So
I'm trying to
that's a great
think outside the
answer.
box sort of on the fly here, but yeah, that's my thinking.
I appreciate that. I was hoping you'd say there was fluidity there across the school to apply the resources and then across the district, because I think the sensitivity is that we're adding positions or thinking of adding positions that are not fully taken advantage of. And then the only other question I have is on the tech ed, the shared
Yeah.
resource. I know Sawyer School, it's self-contained. I love my K-8. And I know that it's self-contained. Are other schools sharing resources? Is this an anomaly, or is this something?
So Sean could speak more specifically about how his is run, but it has to do with that campus-based situation, so if you want to.
The way I share with, we share with Burbank, so also being together helps that we work the schedule so that they just can walk across the hallway. And we have to do a lot of coordination, Laura and I, in the summer to make sure it all lines up. And
So there's one tech ed for each system, each subsystem within the
our fifth
system.
graders go over to the middle school.
Okay, so
Right.
given that, if you need your own, then you're gonna need your own.
I think our numbers are
It's
though.
0.2 per position.
I understand that.
We have a different amount of numbers total than Hale and Center, so we have less sections
To cover.
to cover.
Oh.
They have more sections.
Okay.
And so does
Right.
Hale right now, coming through.
Right,
Okay.
so I can't speak for either Burbank or Sawyer with regards to the number of sections, but I know with Mr. Grady and I have had conversations where he's now at, next year he'll be at 5 sections of related arts for each grade level,
Yeah.
which is different. It used to be 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And that's the problem.
Okay,
Right.
that's clarification. Thank you.
And
for
another
that.
piece of that too is that I think we both feel, I don't want to speak for him, but I think we both feel that making this one piece of the schedule drive the entire schedule to make it fit sometimes causes issues with our major, more focused curriculum areas. So that's a piece of it too.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. I'm sorry, anybody else have any quick questions? Not that mine were quick. Okay, thank you.
So with regards to non-salary budget requests, a lot of it mirrors what was requested in the 18-19 budget, and it reflects the ongoing positive work and results that we're seeing each day and across the school year. As part of the literacy initiative mentioned before, I'm also requesting grade level specific content text that will allow us to move away from traditional textbooks in science and social studies and support those curriculums with authentic text and embedded within the literacy blocks, and that with also the focus that those texts are more engaging and informative for our students. Within the instructional technology line, those requests support our need to innovate what students are doing in the computer lab with coding and robotics. Some of this innovation has been informed by our parent presenters that come in from private industry and share and demonstrate with students what they do on a daily basis, and then we want to continue that work and get kids excited. We're looking to expand those opportunities for students with this request. Lastly, actually, I'm happy to report that while I planned on steadily replacing our chorus risers at Center with 2 sections each year out of other expenses, that request is no longer being made, as the other 4 sections were purchased through the donations from Stowe PTO and the Stowe Friends of Music, so that line's decreasing. Thank you again to both those organizations. I just want to just as I close out, acknowledge the hard work of our staff supportive parents, our awesome students, along with the continued support from the district, school committee, and community. Without any of those pieces, our school wouldn't be what it is. So thank you again for the opportunity to present the center budget, and I don't know if I need to take specific questions now or...
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I thought you were done before I would have held my questions. I apologize, because you just, whatever. Okay, any questions? How much the total ask?
I don't think that I'm not sure that we did a grand total at the bottom.
I don't see that on the executive summary, but under each line, you can see the percentage.
Under the executive summary.
I'm actually in the purple section.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
If you, one more. If you had one or two most critical components that you need for this year, I know, and I wish, but we can't.
Mm-hmm.
What would that one or two most critical components be? Because based on what you're saying, I'm thinking something, but you need to tell us.
Sure. I think within personnel requests, obviously an intervention-based instructional assistant, you know, I can make the schedule work if need be, if I have to prioritize one thing over the other with regards to those two personnel requests. Within, you know, the non-salary pieces, I think just continuing our literacy expansion is critical. You know, the book room is something that is going to support us for not just the FY20 school year, but ongoing. Those books will last and they will stay and they will be resources. I think also an increase of the nonfiction pieces to support the content areas of science and social studies. We've shifted science standards. We're going to be shifting to social studies standards, so we need to keep up with what kids need access to.
So, perspective for the school committee, if I could, Laura, friend, what Ross is referencing on the reading room, the book room, is that what enabled your kids to come in with the program that you presented to us a couple meetings ago?
Absolutely.
There's all a tie-in.
So I want to make sure that everybody understands that presentation of the kids and how articulate they were and that they're finding joy. I'm not pushing this, I'm just trying to draw the through line so people understand what the asks are and how they impact the current experiences. Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks. Sean?
And you're going to hear a lot of the same things. The connectedness is really grown stronger and stronger over the years in terms of some of the requests you're going to hear and the curriculum connections across the district. So, thank you for this opportunity to discuss the budget and how it supported student learning last year and how it's I'm requesting for it to support student learning next year. As a result of the previous budget, literacy, instruction, and learning has been greatly enhanced over the past year. The ongoing literacy professional development and ability to purchase resources for teachers and students has really changed the way students have access and respond to literature. They're seeing reading from a writer's point of view, and they're viewing writing from a reader's point of view. So as you talk to students, it's very evident that their engagement's increased and their analysis of literacy has been growing. As Ross mentioned, the STEM scopes support in the programming and instruction in the budget last year, and the request for it shifting to the site-based budget this year has allowed students to continue to learn science through really hands-on experience. The materials and resources are giving students experiential learning opportunities that are inquiry-based. Professional development portion of the budget this year currently paid for all the reading specialists, special educators, and a partner teacher to take part in the co-teaching professional development that's developed a lot of enthusiasm in the teachers, and it will allow for more strategic differentiation in the classroom setting. Looking forward to next year's budget priorities, budget will continue to support the areas of literacy, science, and those shifting curriculum areas, as Ross mentioned, social studies as well. The continuation of redefining our book room is also a priority. The K-2 book room's been completely transformed. The physical space has been revamped, and new book titles have been added. Our grade 3 to 5 book room has added some new titles, but the physical space is a focus for next year to make it more accessible to students and teachers. Another area of next year's budget to highlight is the technology line. There's an additional ask from last year for some new robots, some new drones, and online programming. These additions will support multiple grade levels to be able to access more real-world problem-solving and creative skills, which is right in line with the district technology plan and our current MRE school improvement plan. I've also had a request in a personnel request to add an additional section to our classes to deal with our increased enrollment. We've added over 50 students in the last year, and a lot of them have clustered around one grade level in specific. But that request is in the budget. But overall, the budget request will continue to support all curriculum initiatives and focus on constructivist, open-ended learning opportunities that are really multi-disciplinary and cross-curricular.
Question. Your instructional technology, oh, wait a minute, you're not done.
No, I'm done.
No, he is done.
No, I'm done. That's it.
Sorry.
I speak the least out of
Your instructional technology asks are new this year.
Some of it was reduced last year, and so some things have been put back in terms of some subscription-based pieces that are particular to MRE, and then online programming for the drones and for robots. We had students come and present a couple years ago, and that was primarily clustered around 5th grade. So these are to support in, like as low as 2nd grade up.
Yeah, and so my question here again is, do the other two schools have a similar need? And if they don't,
I think they're a little ahead of us, and we're trying to add some things and each area has some different, each school has their own focuses. I know the center has like a 3D printer, and we've talked about it, but we want to put emphasis on programming for the drones to go with some of the curriculum initiatives that, and how the instructional technology teacher works with at different grade levels. So it's similar but different.
That's great input. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Mr. Oshel? Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I won't go into any detail reiterating what my colleagues have already discussed regarding our literacy initiatives. We are grateful for the support in both the resources to continue to build the tools for students to read and write at high levels, but also the ability to provide our teachers with incredibly high quality professional development. We are asking our elementary teachers, and they commit to it, to essentially go through a graduate level program of reading and writing instruction. It's incredibly powerful learning. It's difficult for them. It's dense, and they have committed to it, and we're grateful for that support. The point in having Mr. Mulcairn tee us up and lead off with the elementary perspective is that we have started to work together to find all of those commonalities that we're working on to give you that elementary-based district perspective. With regard to Florence Sawyer School, we don't have any additional staffing this year in terms of requests. Our numbers look to be pretty close to similar. We have been very well supported over the last several years with regard to the instructional technology, which is why that number looks pretty static to what it's been in the past. Where there are increases for us are with regard to professional development, and that is due to continuing to build our teachers' capacity around their abilities to teach students the executive function strategies and working with cognitive connections, and that group supporting the work that the school district is doing around social emotional learning and building their capacity in that area. And in regard to increases in support for 504 needs, we're seeing more and more students that are requiring, particularly with our therapeutic programs that you've been supportive of, additional resources and or time out of the classroom and or supports to to help level the playing field for our students that have some of those needs relative to 504 issues. And that's basically the overview for us at Florence Sawyer. I'll be coming back and talking a little bit more from the middle school perspective, but I'll entertain any questions you have at the elementary level.
So the office supplies, that's a,
Yeah, it is. It's a large increase from what we had, where the teachers in the past had been looking at including in their budgets crayons and interactive notebooks. We're trying to consolidate that all through the office and manage it that way. So pulling some of that out of there and putting it, so the numbers in terms of our instructional supplies are relatively consistent, a little bit higher because of the STEM scopes that we've added, but the pulling the money out of that area and putting it into general office supplies is why that number had increased. Thank you for asking that.
yeah, because, so I'm not challenging you on
Sure.
this, I'm asking the question.
Sure.
So,
It's just to try to system
that makes
build a
sense
system
to me.
around
I
it.
mean, we're all about process and systems, right?
and to level the playing field for the Emerson wing as well, so that we have an equal amount of supplies relative to the number of students, so it's essentially student-based.
So my question is, when in the beginning of the school year, when all the parents come in to and we grab our little stickies
Yes.
because there's additional supplies
Supply
that the classrooms need, which I can't believe we have to do, but we do.
Okay.
How do those two work together? Are they completely separate? I'm trying to figure that out because I don't. If you said this was going to replace the ask of the parents, I'd be like, okay. But if it's not to replace the ask, I just need to understand the relationship.
We've really whittled down the number that we ask of parents over the last several years. There are still asks in terms of supplies and a binder that a student might have or something specific to programs that they have. But we've tried to consolidate a lot of that under our supply budget. So that number has really gone down, I think.
Okay, that is helpful because that explains why. Because it's like, and it's been a couple of years since I've been at school, but we have this like 20 different
Sure.
stickies.
Sure.
But then we're increasing the supply budget. So if it's a one-for-one, I understand.
So I think for the school committee's perspective, it's important to understand that while it looks like an increase, what I've done is essentially pull money out of the general instructional supplies that teachers use for their grade levels and put it into the office supply
Like a
budget.
bucket.
Yeah.
So you have more control over it.
Yes.
Yep, understood.
If I can just mention too, this doesn't relate to your building, but to our school committee friends, you'll note that especially when Pat comes to do the executive summary, and when someone like Tanya Rich will speak, we've done this in a couple of different places where we've moved things. I know that Teaching and Learning is the same, where we've moved a couple of different things that were already in the budget, but we moved it somewhere else. Like, Tanya Rich, for example, the line shows an 8100% increase. Well, not really. It used to be over here. It's just not. It's over
That's
here.
fine.
So it's housekeeping, and a lot of that, not this specific item, but a lot of that has been driven by our auditors. As you know, we've been working for the last couple of years to refine things and tighten things up, and this is another one of those years where we're doing that.
Yep, makes
So,
sense. Thank you.
awesome.
Any other questions for? Yep.
Speaking of housekeeping, since this is the first time I'm looking at this book, Florence Sawyer's K through 8, so I'm seeing K through 8 listed. Is it the same in the middle? Is it the same budget in the middle school section as well? Because I'm seeing
one
K through 8.
school.
I know, but I want to know if these numbers are repeated or if these are
No.
additional asks in the different sections here.
Nope.
Okay, so this is just here twice.
Mhm.
Okay.
Anything else?
You asked Ross his priorities, but you didn't ask the other two.
Okay.
So
One or two? What would be your number? If it's okay, Joel, I'm going to take Sean
Sure.
first.
The personnel request.
Yeah.
Just because.
What are your numbers that you're anticipating?
What it's happened is we added 50, I said, students, so it's about 6 per grade level, but there's a huge cluster at second grade level. We left at like 2021, and all of a sudden we came back and we have 25 per room, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it
you're-
would be
you're at that point.
to break that into an additional.
And then then this is gonna roll into the middle school eventually.
So when I started 10 years ago, we were 550, and we had 4 sections at each grade level. In the past 10 years, that dropped to 450, and we dropped to about 3 sections per grade level. We're now this would make it half and half. We have 4 sections at 3 grade levels and 3 sections at 3 grade levels. So it doesn't. That keeps it. If it were to be 3 sections, it would. We're at good numbers going into the middle school. I believe.
Thank you very much.
And I think in terms of our priorities, it's continuing to provide the tools necessary to meet the goals of our school improvement plan. And so, you know, building our teachers and students' capacity in social emotional learning, I think is the biggest key for us right now.
So of the asks though.
The professional development.
Yeah, the PD.
And where is, why can't I find it? Which page?
It's
On page
4th
8.
from the bottom,
At the
5th from the
bottom.
bottom in our
there we
executive
go.
summary.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you very much. All right,
Great.
thanks, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
We are
Middle
on
school, so Joel, you might as well stay there for middle school.
For Steve.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Purposely. No, as you're leaving, this is just a general question. There's a lot of new staff requests for the district. And I wonder how and when staffing vacancies tie into
Are you thinking retirements
the
and
new
stuff?
position. Whatever, whether a position is eliminated or there's retirements. So when does that get tied into our ability to meet those new staffing requests?
It's really a continuous ebb and flow. It doesn't just happen like all at once, to be honest. And what you'll see is the administrators, the principals primarily, myself, Joanne, Marie, and Pat will get together and start to take a look at that. I'm not sure if that's exactly because, for example, this is a hypothetical example. So we may find that we've got a small class, or we've got a teacher that's leaving at the high school. But our need isn't there. Our need is over here, and we know that that's where our need is. And maybe, like, I mean, as you listen to Sean, and 50 extra kids that we didn't count on this time last year. That's a lot of students in Lancaster. So the need is there. So we might look at that high school position and say, okay, we're going to leave that. We're not going to fill that, but we are going to add this. So that comes through. For us, it'll come through at probably next couple of weeks when we can start to take a look at it.
So that's taken into consideration when we're trying to meet those new staffing requests.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's all part and parcel of this. But it is an ebb and flow throughout the year, too. It's not just this time of year. We're constantly looking at that.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thank
Our
you.
middle school principals, welcome.
Floor is yours.
Yes, so number 1 on the docket.
And in our hearts.
Yeah.
And in our hearts.
On behalf of my colleagues, Mr. Gray and Mr. Bates, we just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to present to you our proposed FY20 budgets for your consideration this morning. We are eternally grateful for the continued support that we receive from the school committee and from our school-wide communities. And we know, as do our elementary principals, that it's because of this collective support that we continue to make growth towards important school and district-wide initiatives. We really believe that, and we just want to say thank you. Each of our 3 middle schools are going to present requests to support unique needs for our school community, based on our own school communities. And we're each going to take a moment to explain those individual requests to you, just like the elementary school principals did. But it's our hope that across these unique needs, much like our elementary colleagues, we're going to see a great amount of consistency as we work together in collaboration and in alignment to ensure that all of our students in the district, regardless of which town, receive high-quality learning experiences at each grade level. 2 of these consistent requests are STEM scopes and our proposal to continue our phased-in redesign of our library media center. Those are the first 2 bullets. The purchase and implementation of STEM scopes, again, much like our elementary colleagues, is consistent in terms of vertical alignment. This past year, we piloted STEM scopes science curriculum at grades 6, 7, and 8 under the direction of our Department of Teaching and Learning to great success. We would like to continue the purchase of this program to support our science curriculum. We believe that's where we want to be with science education. It is tightly aligned to the next generation science standards. It has a hands-on investigative approach, which is exactly where we want to be. It's also complemented by a rigorous assessment component, which we know is critically important. So all three of us are submitting requests for the support of STEM scopes at the middle level as well. We are each working at the continued evolution of our library media centers. This is a phased-in approach as we work to create open and collaborative learning spaces that are multi-purpose to support innovation and collaboration for our students. And so requests to support this process would include requests for multi-purpose furniture, multimedia tables, and resources for makerspace. And these requests are supported in both the district-wide facilities and district-wide technology budgets, so we wanted to point that out to you. That's those two consistent requests. I don't know if anyone has any questions about those two. So then we're going to move on to our individual proposals for our school-wide budgets and to my favorite topic, no offense, Luther Burbank Middle School. Luther Burbank does not have any additional staffing requests for the FY20 budget proposed to you. With that said, I'd just like to make a special note of appreciation for the addition of our assistant principal position that was supported in the FY19 budget. Our new assistant principal, Mr. Grant, is working tirelessly, as we knew he would, working directly with students and staff to help us continue to grow. And so thank you for that support.
You had a great mentor.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Our non-salary requests at Luther Burbank really are not significant in nature. They're really intended to maintain our current growth in curriculum and instruction and enrichment. In terms of our requests related to technology, we're now fully implemented in the one-to-one model with our 6th and 7th and 8th graders all having Chromebooks, which they're taking to and from school. Extremely positive feedback from both our students and from our parents, and our teachers are working incredibly hard to integrate technology to support student learning for learning purposes. You'll note that as a result of this one-to-one implementation, we are seeing a decrease in a reduction in our need for print consumables and textbooks, and so you will see a decrease in our textbook line at Luther Burbank because of that. We are now in year 3 of implementation of our workshop model for reading and writing at Burbank as well. We're really proud of that work, and so requests to support literacy for workshop continue, with a request this year to support text sets, supporting interdisciplinary connections, as Mr. O'Shea mentioned, which we know are critically important for students to be able to synthesize their learning across content areas. As well, we would like to support a new author study unit and a classic text study unit in 6th and 7th grade respectively, so we're excited about that. In terms of enrichment and extracurriculars, we have a request in our budget to support a new electric piano for our music program. Our music program has grown pretty substantially, and in fact it's grown in numbers 25% in the past 3 years just in terms of overall participation, and our jazz and chorus band has doubled and tripled in participation. We're excited about that growth. We are in need of a new electric piano. Our current piano is 18 years old, and our amazing music teacher tells me that the speakers are blown and it can only play on one volume, which is high. And of course it is. In her very professional manner, explains it's very difficult to teach pitch recognition on one volume. So I believe her. Completely out of my wheelhouse, but I believe her. So we have a request to support that as well. And finally, we have a request to support an additional extracurricular activity. That would be creative writing. That supports where we are at Luther Burbank in terms of literacy. We're currently running that program this year with very high numbers of 25 and above students on a weekly basis. It's not a stipended position, so we would like to include that as a stipended position next year. Our current participation numbers for extracurriculars for students we're also really proud of. We have 74% of our student body participating in at least one extracurricular, intramural, or interscholastic sport. So we thank you for the support of those, because we know being involved at middle school level is very, very important.
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
It really is.
Because I've heard a lot of swirl about let's cut the sports budget to fund some other budget. I don't think people realize
Those
that these
connections.
towns don't have a heck of a lot for kids to do after school. So I'm glad to hear you say that. I hope people latch on to that number.
Yeah, students have the ability to develop those pro-social skills in supportive, structured environments and get to know who they are.
Yeah.
That's what middle school is all about.
Thank you.
So that's the conclusion of Luther Burbank budget, and I'm happy to answer any questions and just overall.
What's your
wanna
number
say
one?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. What's your number one?
I would say the top 2 bullet points that are consistent with my colleagues, the STEM scopes to support our science curriculum, as well as the continued evolution of our media space, which really supports our digital learning plan and where we are with technology integration. So I'd say those are definitely my top 2.
Would you take a donation on an electric piano and get it off the budget? I'll call you. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Luther Burbank Middle School and Mrs. Friend? Okay, Mr. Grady. Poor guy.
I first just want to say thank you. It is really, truly a pleasure to work at Hale Middle School. It's a fabulous place to learn. It's a fabulous place to work. We've got amazing teachers like Mr. Keaveney, who's over here, probably serving a dual role right now. But Mr. Keaveney is an example of a veteran teacher who's doing amazing things at Hale. I invite all of you guys to come and visit us, even if it's just for an hour or so, to see the things that are happening within the walls of our school. So. With that, I will remind you that last year we reduced our budget by about 11%, and I'm coming back this year with my hat in my hand asking for some very specific increases to support the things that we're doing at Hale. What you will see very clearly, unlike my 2 colleagues, is that I am asking for some salary increases. Those salary requests are for a 0.4 assistant principal and a 0.5 literacy specialist. Should we be honored with the option to have an assistant principal, that person would really serve in, would have 3 very specific roles. That would be to assist in supervision and evaluation of staff, to assist in daily discipline matters that come up, and to assist in the supervision of after-school events and activities, which we've seen grow quite considerably in the last 2 years. The 0.5 literacy specialist, it is currently a position that is shared with Center. The teacher spends half of her time at Center and half of her time at Hale. And what we've seen in the last year is a significant increase in students who need literacy support. That's sometimes a push-in model where the teacher's pushing into a classroom, but often it's a pull-out model as well, where students are getting specific services outside of the classroom. And quite honestly, that it's very challenging to manage a person who's split between 2 buildings, being that our schedules are very different. We were able to do so last year. However, this year has become more challenging because our numbers have increased. So looking ahead to what we have, and that is a continuing growing enrollment in our district, specifically in Stowe, we really needed a literacy specialist to support those students and their learning needs. So that is the reasons behind the 0.5 request. The non-salary requests that you see, there's a small increase in our contracted services, We were caught off guard this year with a student who had basically moved into the district and was tested out of all of the maths that we offer. So we had to come up with some monies to support something called the CTY, the Center for Talented Youth, which is an online program through Johns Hopkins. Thank you. So you'll see an increase there to support that. You'll also see a request for increase in our PD line, and that is to support some building-based professional development around social emotional learning and differentiated instructional practices. That's where we'll have folks come in and work with our faculty and staff to improve the way that we teach. What you'll also notice is that we have a significant increase in our after-school clubs and activities. The reason for that is we've made an intentional effort in the past year to grow our after-school programs. And I'm grateful that we've been able to do that. We were able to do so because we received just under $10,000 from a Hale grant. That grant will be exhausted in July. We'll have used that, which was our goal, was to use it over the course of 2 years to grow our program. So now that we've grown that program, I'd like to support it systemically by folding those costs into our operating budget.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. Any questions for Principal
Yeah.
Grady?
I do. Questions before I go? Mike?
Kyle, is the .4 role, assistant principal role, is that going to be staffed by an existing member who will shift responsibilities, or is that exclusively one staff member at .4?
So that would be a new request for a .4. We have some potential candidates for the position, but I can't say for certain unless it was posted. So it could end up being that someone on staff currently would go into that position, and then we would need to fill their vacancy, that 1.0 vacancy.
Elaine, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. You have a science consumables line. Is that the STEM scopes increase? Is that what the increase is here?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. The Center for Talented Growth?
The Center for Talented Youth, CTY, Center for Talented Youth through Johns Hopkins.
Youth, I'm sorry, youth. So I would, this is a message to you. I would love to see one of those programs across the district anyway, but not an online one, a concerted one. Is this software or an individual?
So we actually all have a student in our building. I think we have one or two. We each have a student in our buildings who are participating in this Center for Talented Youth. It's an online geometry course, an online honors geometry course. And it's largely because those students they've exceeded everything that we can offer. There's an online component, but then there's also in the evenings, there's often these video components where they're actually checking in with the teacher, they're logging in. Other students from around the country who are taking the same course will also log in. We receive regular reports from the teacher of the course, individually. I don't see either one of their students' reports, but we see our own students' report. I tend to get them on a bi-weekly basis, where it's checking in, telling us what she's working on, what she needs to improve on, her scores.
Okay.
Does
So
that
it
answer your
sean-
question?
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Go
Does that
ahead.
answer your question?
Yeah, it does, because it seems like short money for something that, albeit in the situation you're in, it's a Band-Aid, right?
Right.
And I think as things evolve and you start to see more kids who need that, I mean, that's part of our charter, is to make sure that all students are,
I can't say we're working with teaching and learning to try to address that. We've been having multiple discussions about how we can do something more in the favor of our students versus going to an outside contract.
Right. But, and I understand that launching a program takes a little more thoughtful, development. So that answers that question. And then on the Hale thing, we knew we were going to be here, right? We knew we were going to end up at this place. And I remember, Lynn, it was you that had a lot of questions on this.
So, one time.
It has been a long time. It's been a year or two, I can't remember. And I remember you coming to the table and saying, I don't need anything. And I thought, oh, here he is. I remember me, I was such a good guy before. So the programs that here, and don't, again, my questions are not to challenge, my questions are to understand. So the programs that you are talking about now are programs that you had initiated for your particular school. My question is, if we're being asked to fund these programs because the Mabel Hale has now run out, are those programs that are similar to programs in the other two schools, or will we find, and I don't want you guys to go, oh, I want to support my peers, so anything, you know, I really need to understand it, or is this something where we need to be looking with an eye to the future in elevating those other two schools to ensure parity?
So I think we were playing catch up, to be honest with you, and I didn't want to come last year and ask for $10,000 to support a program if I wasn't certain that that program was going to be successful. So we were able to secure the grant, and now we can see, I just met with the director of Randall Library, and she's asking, where are all the middle school kids? Why aren't they coming to the Randall Library anymore? And it's because they're staying after school for the programs that we're running within our buildings, which is exactly what we want,
right,
as far as students being connected to teachers, students being connected to their school. So, you know, we're playing a bit of catch up. I think the numbers are a little bit different when you compare the three buildings, and I think that's probably because we have a larger size of students. You know, we're bigger than the other two middle schools.
Really?
Yes.
What are your numbers?
We're just under 300.
And what about you folks?
We're at 250.
Just about 244, actually.
Okay.
So we're playing catch up to get those after school programs running like the other two middle schools already had. Last year was a concerted effort to do so without a request.
Okay.
Those programs are now running, they're successful. We have teachers who are invested in those programs. This was a goal of mine last year. We've achieved that goal, and now I'm coming asking to continue to run these programs by providing the
And they're
appropriate
staying at
funds.
school. This is
And
all
they're at
good
school, they
news.
want to be at school. They're after school for lengthy periods of time, you know, doing the things that we want them to do.
You know what you guys have taught us over the years? So what's your number one ask?
It's really tough, to be honest with you.
I know, but life sucks, so, I said that.
I mean, I feel like I need the assistant principal position really to continue to do the things that we're doing at Hale. But the professional development component, I think, you know, we also need that, the social and emotional learning, the training that our staff needs to continue to grow. So I'm polled, you know, one of them I think is a need for the building, and I think one is a need for our staff and myself. So if I had to put it down though, I would probably say right now the .4 assistant principal is probably our greatest need.
And what about the literacy specialist? What would you do if you didn't have that resource?
If we would just have to make do if we don't get that resource. We'll have to go back with Ross. We'll have to do some, you know, tricky scheduling. We might have to pull her into our building a little bit more than she is currently, and a little bit less at Hale. I mean, at Center. That's something that I have to sit down with Principal Walker and figure out during the summer.
And yeah, I mean, that's worth a discussion. Okay,
Right.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you so much.
So again, I'd like to thank the committee for this opportunity to lay out our budget requests for your consideration. Again, I want to echo what my colleagues have discussed already with regard to our library media centers. We're really excited about the work that is being done, the progress that we've made, the progress that we continue to make in having these spaces evolve into 21st century learning spaces, maker spaces, common spaces for engaging with the world around them. It's not the library of our childhood. They are high-tech areas. They are comfortable. They are engaging. They are filled with exciting resources and stories. And we continue to build our nonfiction collections as well, both in terms of hard copy, actual books, but also in terms of the digital footprints, and our requests across the board reflect that. With regard to Florence Sawyer School, in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, as Mrs. Friend said, we've had a continued decrease in our ask in terms of the textbook line item as we continue to look at our digital, the digital environment in which our students work. What you will see in terms of Florence Sawyer School is additional money in that textbook line, but that's to build the resources to complement our teachers in the workshop model that Mrs. Friend presented to you a couple of weeks ago. Where we have not requested for additional staffing at the middle level either. In terms of our non-salary requests, there is an increase in our other line for our science department, where our school is we'll be going into our 22nd year, and it's high time to get some new microscopes. So we're requesting 10 new microscopes, and they're not as inexpensive as they were when I was a student. So that's almost $4,000 in terms of new microscopes. And I think to echo Mr. Grady's comments and Mrs. Friend, that we're incredibly proud of our middle school's offerings of extracurricular activities. It's a high priority for me as principal, for our faculty. I'm incredibly grateful of the work that they take on and provide just innovative ways to give students an opportunity to shine and to explore a passion that they have in language arts and in STEM activities and our coding club. And yet when you look at our budget, there's a decrease there, and that's not because we're offering less, but Director Rego, that you'll hear from Extended Learning, has been continuing to try to offer district-wide programs in terms of extended learning for our middle school students, and so we don't want to have duplicative programs. Things like debate, for example, is one that extended learning has taken on that we had offered in the past. Our Model UN Club had been a parent-run activity, and extended learning is looking at those kinds of things, and we're really excited about the building modules that they're exploring right now. That we had extended learning, and Mr. Romer came through all of our middle schools, and the response and the excitement from the kids was incredible. So we are proud of the offerings that we have for our students before and after school. In our case, before as well, because we start a little bit later. There is rarely a time from 7 to 5 when there aren't kids moving around the building, and that's because of the support that you give us, and we are incredibly grateful for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Mike?
Hi, Joel. Just real quick, it looked, excuse me, it looked like the professional development ask for Florence Sawyer was specified in the description and significantly higher than that of Luther, Burbank, and Hale.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if that's a specific professional development that you have in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the ask is pre-K through 8. So I think it's probably not that different from Rollinson and Burbank combined, or Hale and Center combined. Where it is a little outsized is working with Cognitive Connections and bringing in presenters to work with our students, our teachers next year on executive function strategies. And this is an area where we feel that it would both support our school improvement plan and also complement a lot of the great work that Director DeAngelis is working on with and leading that effort for the district as well.
On that vein, you both mentioned additional PD for social emotional type work. How similar is it across the two, and what are you doing? So sort of what is the parity, or what are the differences? Because I know you want to be specific to your own building, but also is there any similarities across the building?
Yeah, so I think getting to common ground on any initiative requires looking at what we do well and where we can be better from an individual standpoint. And I think Luther Burbank, probably Hale, I don't know, maybe a little bit ahead of us in terms of the professional development in this particular area. So social emotional learning is a much wider umbrella, and I think this is one area where we feel like we can gain some traction and support those overall larger initiatives.
If I can just mention too, I think to our school committee members, you'll see some of this discussion now start to come up because you'll see a definite focus for us as a school district over the next 2 years in this very area. So you'll see that ultimately you're going to see that all of this is going to tie into that broader plan for the next 2 years.
So what's your number one for the middle school?
Well,
I know this is a really, it's not a fair question,
No,
but
it is. I think it's a fine question. I appreciate the opportunity to say it publicly. I would look for continued.
oh God.
I would look for continued support for our extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
We're incredibly proud of the many ways that we can extend our day for our students. And so from a philosophical standpoint, I would like to continue to support the teachers' support of those programs. And from a practical standpoint, we need new microscopes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Thanks so
Wonderful,
much,
thank
folks.
you.
Thank you very much.
And we're right on time.
Yeah, we
Madam
are.
Moscow.
Steve, yeah, we are. Steve and Kathy Codian.
We will ask Principal Dee Domenico to come forward and present for our high school.
He has to do it all alone.
He is a standalone man here.
This poor man needs support, so let's hear what he's got to say.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Paul. He's like,
I'm so glad to be able to be here with you, and
not really, but.
I am. I think this is a terrific thing for all of us to come out and speak to what's going on in our schools and what we're looking forward to. I know, just taking a look at last year's budget, I just want to say thank you. Your support resulted in our English department receiving the necessary PD to extend the Reader's Workshop that's going on, the great work that's going on in the elementary and middle schools, to extend it into the high schools. And that's that has really been terrific to see. I know our teachers appreciate it. It's also now, looking at this year's budget, it's $8,000 off the books for English PD. Also, our new kiln has really allowed our ceramics program to blossom. We've now got the first semester, which just finished this past week. There were 4 sections of ceramics running, and the old war horse had to be put out to pasture at the end of last year, and so we're very fortunate to have a new kiln. Something that I tried to pay attention to and was a real focus for scheduling this current year was looking at class sizes. And we've really tried to pay attention and be mindful when scheduling around class sizes. I think we've shifted a significant portion of our core academic standard classes into what I call the sweet spot. Now there's in that range of 21 to 25 students. We have far fewer classes running in the high teens number. There are still some individual classes because of their uniqueness that are running at low numbers, but I really feel like it's been a concerted effort across our school to look at class size. That being said, looking down the road, next year will be the last. It looks like it's going to be the last year of a decline in enrollment, which has been about over the course of about 5 years. And then we're anticipating after next year that enrollment will start to get up to close to 1,000 students or more. So we'll see that spike probably in not next year, but the year after. With that in mind, the requests this year are largely around staff. There's a Dean of Students position that we are interested in, looking to be, I think whenever you deal with student life, you try to be proactive rather than simply reactive, and such a position would allow us to do more of that. And then the .6 physics position, there's been a change to our science program as a result of some changes in MCAS testing. So bringing on a .6 physics teacher would allow us to address needs at the grade 9 level. Point 6, Spanish teacher.
Point 2. Is it point 2 business?
Point
Spanish.
3 Spanish.
I'm sorry, I was just running down my list
Sorry.
here, I'm sorry. But I'm looking at the slide that you have now. Yes, point 2 business. We've got a teacher we'd like to move to a full-time position. She's got a strong background in economics and finance, and I think bringing her on board full-time would allow us to make use of that. The Spanish position, when we look at our class sizes in our core academic areas, the Spanish classes are that's the content area that has the most sections over 26 students. I mean, that's where we're really feeling the pinch in those Spanish classes. And then a point 2 English instructor would allow us to continue to explore some options for upper level students, grade 12 students.
Okay, are we good?
Yes.
Okay, I have a few questions.
Sure.
And this is less for you and more for the administration, on the enrollment creep. So, we have what, 9, how many do you have now?
No, 980.
Okay, we have 980 now. Just a few years ago, we had well over 1,000, so I'm not as sensitive to the volume, the number of students. I'm more concerned about the makeup of the students and the supports you need for the students that are there. Because to me, the numbers are almost, when you get at the administrative level, almost irrelevant when you're getting between 100 kids. And I know that sounds like, oh, come on, lady, you're not in the school. But the point in that is this dean role really to address behavior issues and put in more structure? Is that what it's for?
The simple answer is yes, and what it will allow is for current assistant principals to do more of the work that I want them to focus on around instruction, around curriculum.
Okay.
So
all right. So it's an enabler to do additional education. So then we tried something last year, right? We took the third assistant and we moved the third assistant out. But it looks like we do need something there.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly what you're saying.
What is this additional, how would the additional function support the staff in the building? Or would it?
Well, I think anytime the connection between student behavior and staff needs, when a staff has a concern, of course, some immediate communication, making sure that concern is addressed quickly, and then whatever resolution is found is communicated to them. I think that's probably the number one thing I think staff appreciates.
Okay. All right, and I think that's it. What's that?
Can I follow up on just what you were saying?
Absolutely.
I'm just wondering, because we've never had a dean of students, right?
Right.
We've had a third assistant principal, but we just haven't
But
monitored
this is
that.
this is a different title, so it's almost telling me that the function's gonna be a little bit different. So is there a job description for this?
Well, no, we wouldn't be able to do that unless it's approved and included, and then
Yeah,
the
that's
process
right, we would
starts.
have to go down. Right now, at
This is-
this infancy
It's
stage,
philosophical right now, right? It's,
Yeah.
they have issues, well, they have a need, not issues, we all have issues. I have issues. They have a need for additional supports for the students. And I want to be cautious too, because my comment about discipline isn't the heavy-handed discipline, it's ensuring that the kids have what they need to support
Yes.
what they're doing.
and I think at this level too, it's what we're really looking for is his vision and how it ties in, you know. And so I still feel strongly that that building needs the 3, in some form or another, a layer of 3 administrators.
So you also mentioned the classroom size, which is going to become an issue. Oh, and by the way, one of my other points on the enrollment was we didn't really reduce the staffing in the high school based on the number of students. You know, the decrease in student population over the last 5 or 6 years. comparatively. I know that there were a couple of sections of classes that we did not continue.
Right.
But we haven't done a one-for-one.
No, we didn't take a look, we never looked at it like that in terms of, if this is where you're asking, I think it is, where you look at a student-staff ratio and say, oh, geez, we're trying to get to this number. That's never how we've worked. It's always been the needs, and in some of those smaller classes, because that was something the school committee had asked 3 years ago for me to take a look at those numbers. And you'll recall I printed out all those sheets, and we've been monitoring those all year long. And again, like every year, so it has never been to try to get to someplace.
No.
It's always been about the needs and where we saw the numbers of students shifting between classes and courses.
Right, and I understand that, but the 26 kids in a Spanish class and foreign language, which is challenging enough as it is, well, they all are, but I know what I would want to see you select as your number one, but I mean, you've got a lot of needs at that school, and frankly, one of my challenges to you is going to be where can the district reduce its ask in order to support the high school, because I think this year, I think the high school really needs some love. So what's your number one request?
Well, I mean, you look at all these, and I think any principal is going to tell you that the number one needs have to be direct connection to the students. So you're going to look at the instructional pieces there. Do we need some additional administrative support? Yes, but we're going to look at the teaching first, whether it's the physics teacher, the Spanish teacher, whatever. Those are the number one things.
Okay.
If you take a look at what he's asking for, if you just do the now it doesn't work like this. It's not a big ask from my lens when you take a look at the instructional piece. I mean, at 0.6, at 0.2, you're not even, two teachers are even combining to 1 FTE yet. Do you know what I mean? So you're really asking for less than 1.5
And I don't think it needs to be
FTE.
justified. I'm not asking to justify.
Yeah, I didn't think that.
No, because I think when it impacts the kids directly, then that's priority number one. So I really appreciate you saying that. It's kind of like consistent for everyone. Lynn?
Just a quick question. With the lower numbers, have you always had 26 or a large number in Spanish? Because I know that there's more shifting towards German, and I don't know what other languages you have, but so have they always been that large?
No, I think last year saw a couple of factors that we anticipated would happen. One, we had very low and declining numbers in our Latin program last year, and it necessitated the kind of staggered elimination of that program. It simply could not be sustained over time. So even though those numbers are small now, those students are now choosing another language, those few students. And then we also had a Spanish teacher at the end of last year leave, and we did not fill that position. So most of the larger, and by larger I mean 26 or above, sections are at the Spanish 2 or 3 level. That's where we're seeing.
Okay.
We want to make sure that we stay on time?
No, we do, but I want to make sure these guys, we may end up forfeiting our break, folks. Taking a quick 2-minute break. You have a question?
I just have a really quick question.
Thank you.
Because a lot of the increases, obviously are for like new textbooks.
Yep.
And then we hear from, the elementary and middle school principals, we need fewer textbooks because we're using more digital materials. And I'm not saying, that's necessarily what would work for kids, say in AP chemistry, or whatever. But can you talk a little bit about that and what you're looking for, sort of?
I can. I have this discussion with department chairs every year when the ask comes, and now that I think that they anticipate it and they say, I've also looked into the online text. Unfortunately, what we're seeing at the high school level is there hasn't necessarily been a decrease in costs. Maybe I'm being naive. I would assume a bound textbook would cost more than an online version, but we're not seeing such great savings. Some courses, you mentioned some of the AP courses, really necessitate having that textbook available to students based on their curriculum. But it's something that I always talk at length with my department chairs about, and after this meeting, I'll revisit it with them again and say, because when we submitted this budget, of course, in, I want to say it was November, sometime around November, they're still in the process of investigating the cost of those books. So I have no problem going back to them and sitting down with them.
I like seeing that line item, actually, to tell you the truth. I think it's important. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna bring this up as to put on the running tally of things that maybe we should discuss more overall, because I hate to sound like Neil Darcy, but I think we need to continue that discussion from last year about the subscriptions versus the textbooks and where this is all headed, and the Chromebooks should fit in all.
Neil Darcy did a lot of wonderful things, so there. All right, so I definitely will add that. I think too, we would just want to, and I don't want to go down the rat hole here, but I think we would just want to make sure that we're identifying what is it we want to get out of that discussion is when textbook, when online. Makes sense? Does that help?
Yeah.
Kind of clarify what we're going to be looking for?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
maybe long term, maybe after the budget discussion when we talk about planning for the future, maybe we put a bigger picture in place of what we want to do as a district and how we're going to move there, but that's not for budget season.
Yep.
Right now.
Well, we can start to have that discussion so to impact us, because there's a lot of asks here, so good point. Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you very
Thank
much. Oh, what's your number one, Paul?
Well,
Oh, you already said that.
He did, yeah.
He already said that. He wants his teachers.
Teaching personnel requests.
He wants his teachers, man.
We will invite our Director of People and Personnel Services to come forward.
Thank you, school principals.
Mrs. DeAngelis, so nice to have you, thank you.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me this morning.
Whoa.
It's nice to see the sun, too.
You better launch into this, because I'm seeing a big request. I have no idea what this is. The heck is that? Let's go, sister, roll.
I just wanted to start with the overview of the 240 grant and remind you we made some revisions to that grant last year. We actually moved the paraprofessional salaries out and into the regular budget, and what we did was, because transportation is a reimbursable expenditure, we moved that into the grant.
We actually had that discussion last year too, to be honest with you, around this table.
So I just wanted to do a reminder about that,
So why don't you just give a quick brief overview, because we have new folks on the committee who don't know what you're referencing.
Right, that's why I was rewinding to talk
Okay.
a little bit about last year that we had made that change.
Okay.
So there was $716,000 that was allocated in the 240 grant this year for in-district and out-of-district transportation.
Which leaves a deficit of what, that we have to cover through the budget?
There was no ask in the budget, so, which is now really a concern, because I think that the reason for the increase in transportation, we've had to put additional vehicles on the road because we need more specialized transportation. Handicapped accessible vehicles cost more per day and per year, and we've had to add that this year. So I have concerns about that going forward, because I suspect that we will not be able to meet that budget expectation this year. As I've looked at it over, from July until this point, transportation is going to go over because of the need for those specialized vehicles. So that's why I've asked for an additional $100,000 for the transportation in the regular budget, and we'll continue to put the other reimbursable under the 240.
So you don't have any need for additional staffing?
No. I asked for an increase in speech services, point 2. I think Principal O'Shea summarized the number of new students that have moved in. We have been able to, we had 38 new students move into the district just this year alone. We've had an increase in OT, PT, and speech services. I've been able to kind of shift people around to make caseloads manageable, but we were not able to meet the speech. It's been extremely difficult. We just did not have the personnel. We have 2 part-time speech people at Mary Rollinson and 1 at Luther Burbank, so I'm looking to get 1 more day a week to cover those services for speech.
We don't really have an option to not cover transportation.
Right.
So I think that's an important fact that we all need to be aware of. I mean, in your area, we don't have an option to not cover a lot, not that we wouldn't want to, but it's a big ask, but it's also...
I'm bringing it forward because I don't want to underestimate, but I'm really worried about it because I know I'm not going to meet that expectation this year.
And I know that I understand that you can't define what it is. I'm always very skeptical of big fat round numbers because I know that it's a point, a line in the sand. What I always, and this is irrespective of you, but what I always get concerned about is as we go through the budget process and we start to approve or not approve, and then things come in and they're less, we never really know, but they're carried through in the next year's budget. And I know you've heard me say this year over year and you get tired of hearing it, but that's one of the things that I feel really the school committee needs to stay on is where did we ask for things last year? Where did it fall short? And sometimes things get lost in translation to the following year. This one, I'm not picking on it. It's just because it's a big fat round number, there's more opportunity. It could be much more than what you're asking too. We just don't know. And we don't know in your area because you don't know who's moving into town.
That's right.
Right, so it's a moving target, and I really looked at it across from July until now, and I know right now what I have in the budget, I cannot support the transportation line right now, so I'm cautious going forward because we don't plan for this money, then I have to come back and say, where is the funding gonna come for transportation? And I know I've had to put more vehicles on the road.
Is that your biggest request?
Yes.
Okay.
I would also point out too that we're, in part as a result of this, we're finding that the need for somebody to coordinate because it's becoming, it's enormous what's having to happen right now in our offices. Between your office and the fabulous work that Michelle Cody does, we're getting to almost a tipping point if we're not already there because it's so complex. So I just want to put that on the table as well.
So what's the coordinator for?
Well, no, she's
No,
not
I'm not talking
asking
about, I'm
for it.
saying that, I'm not saying that at this moment in time, I'm just saying.
General coordination of transportation is complicated.
It's
and
very complicated.
Every day it's a moving target.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
Sure, so there is a reduction in out-of-district tuition, so you can see that.
Congratulations and thank you.
I think a couple of factors play into that. One is we have some students that are graduating successfully, which is always exciting, and that are moving on. But we also have developed new programs, and we have very strong programs in the district. And I listened to all my principal colleagues, and because of them and the cultures that they're building, we have really successfully integrated students with the right supports in all of our schools. I was at Center this week and we welcomed a student this week, and I left tearful because we brought a student into the building and we are servicing that student very well. And I think that our rich programming has really supported students, not only getting the supports that they need, but also the curriculum they need in order to be successful in their communities. And I know I was at the school committee a couple weeks ago, so if at any time you want to come and take a little tour, I've asked some principals if they would welcome you so you could actually see some of the new programs that are in the district, because our faculty, our regular ed faculty, our special ed faculty are working very well together. I listened to Principal D. Domenico talk about, the physics ask. So part of that physics ask is to really support the students at the high school that have been challenged by the science curriculum, and we have worked together to come up with a co-taught model so that a special ed teacher and a physics teacher can work together so we can really support students around that content that's very challenging. So
it's very exciting.
We're doing a lot of work together. You've heard a lot about co-teaching today. We have been working on those initiatives to really bring rich curriculum to our students. So it's really exciting work.
Good for you. Thank you.
Keep doing that integration. So.
You good?
Yeah, so the only other thing I had on the slide was the preschool. I just wanted to make you aware of the grants that are available, and the funding and the support for the pre-K. The 298 grant was moved from EEC to DESE, and it was just recently released. So we'll be applying for that grant, and that's professional development for preschool faculty and staff members. The 262 grant continues to support para salaries in the preschool. Our 237 grant, the community partnership grant, funds our early childhood coordinator and our play groups throughout the community. I wanted to mention grants because I think it's important. I've talked about these reductions of grants. So the 391 grant Pat and I have just submitted to this week supports preschool teacher salaries. This is the last year that grant will be available. So I guess I don't want there to be surprises when I come next year and say they've eliminated, 26,558, and then we're talking about increased costs. The 274 grant, which was in the slide prior, they eliminated that 2 years ago, and I've had to put PD, that's our professional development money, for special education and developing of programming, so I've had to reserve money through the 240 grant there. So I've found, a placeholder to continue to provide rich professional development. But it worries me that I'm not sure year to year what grants are going to be supported and allowed. So I want to mention it to you now because I don't want you to be surprised next year if I come and say to you, this grant's not
That
been
was going to be my
awarded.
question to you, is what's at risk in the grants that you're currently
Yeah,
receiving?
so the 391, we just submitted that. This is the final year for that grant, so we will not have that grant available next year.
So when you do come forward with your ask next year, it shouldn't be the fully loaded FTE, it would be the, I know, there's a theme here, but I just worry that we have to be so cognizant of what we're spending and making sure that it's going in the places that it really needs to go.
Right. And so my two big asks are the transportation, because I already know we're under budget this year, and I'm tremendously worried about that. The speech services is something that we really need, especially at Mary Owens and Burbank. We're really struggling to cover those services comprehensively.
Okay. Any other quick questions, Lynn?
So these grants are grants that they're definite?
No, nothing's a definite. They have them for this year except the last one,
Those are the
right?
grants that we have for this year, but we know that the 391, this is the final year.
Okay. And so I'm kind of wondering why SPED is doing grants for pre-K, unless pre-K is SPED.
That is a SPED
It's
program.
integrated, it's the integrated
program.
preschool for
That was the
special
whole thing that we went through
education.
last year.
No, because the other question is, so is there one for K? Are there grants for K?
No.
So there are no grants for K? Okay.
Lillian.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep all the grants and the numbers right too. You mentioned a grant that covers early childhood coordinator, but that's zeroed out here in the budget for next year. So can you explain that?
The early childhood coordinator has a dual role, so the community partnership grant offsets that salary, the early childhood. There's $22,000 of this grant that offsets that early childhood / teen chair for the preschool.
Okay, but it says zero for next year's budget, early childhood coordinator, both listed as.
Maxfield piece. It's split separately in the grant offset page. That's in the section 1. We just have it.
So what might be helpful is
My
just to put
question
it.
is there no early childhood coordinator anymore?
There is.
Oh,
an
there
early
is.
childhood
It's just,
coordinator.
yeah, it's just how
It's
they
how
got
the
it.
accounting, so
Yeah,
what
it's
would
just
be
accounting.
helpful is if you guys could put in the description line item, just explain
Yeah.
so that when someone's looking at it like Elaine has, you can say,
Yeah.
why this looks like a zero. It's not that we're eliminating that position,
No.
it's that it's an accounting function.
We could possibly do without, for the type of program, what purpose of the program is, we couldn't do without,
Yeah.
so we have to have that.
Okay, so things that are just, sorry, this is housekeeping, but things that are supported by specific grants are, I'm used to seeing all the expenses and then the revenues. And so for something to be zeroed out, but it really is there because it's supported by money that's coming from outside is just a little confusing.
Yeah,
Put it in the
it's
description.
a really tough balance for us to walk through too. You're absolutely right. No, it's a good perspective, Elaine.
Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, technology. And I think this is really going to be a joint presentation. I think our assistant superintendent is going to take the lead with G.
Thank you for the opportunity to present technology budget. The first line is a personnel request. We currently have a half-time position in high school. In the past half year, the feedback we get from building administrator and also teacher is very positive. So there's a strong desire to turn that into a full-time position. And that we believe that will benefit not only high school, but also the district as well. So that's the first line. So next, for the regular budget, the first one is the contracted services. Those are the service we use for from outside vendors like Comcast for the internet connections for both for the district and also between buildings. The firewall protections, that's protect all the internal stuff like equipment and also service. The endpoint, the antivirus protection for the desktop, laptop. Those help teachers, like for teachers when they go outside, like home or travel outside, also get protected on their laptops. And also cover the IT consulting services. Those are like when we bring the vendors, sometimes we have to pay for their service, also the travel, all those kind of things, and also the summer help. For computer supplies, that is a standard. It's kind of a supply request for all from all schools. We allocate $9 per student. Those are used for printers, the tuners, cartridge, the projector box, the microphone speakers, the cameras, power adapter for the Chromebooks, and the batteries, of course. The professional development, those are the kind of the training for the IT team, like for power school training. If any new software, hardware, or network-related stuff come up, we can send people out. That item normally don't get used, and in the end of the year, normally get absorbed back by the district. So it's just there, just in case. The computer hardware, that is a big lot. Mostly covers the one-to-one Chromebooks, the regular upgrade for laptop, desktop, and also the interactive board and also mounted projector. Also, a big piece is the network equipment. That's Wi-Fi access point, the switches, that kind of stuff. The last line is the software and licensing. There used to be 4 items in there. The instructional technology, that piece moved to teacher and learning department this year. So we currently have like a school operation, that including all the software used by teacher and student, like Microsoft Office, and also teacher evaluation, like the Baseline Edge, Power School Student Information System, student online registration, the library system, the students, the SNAP for health applications, and also the website hosting. For business operation, the software we use for covers finance, accounting, and also HR is BudgetSense, and also for the sub-teacher scheduling, the ASAP. The last one is the technology operation. Those are the software we use to monitor the network equipment, the bandwidth management, and also the backup for internal backup, and also cloud-based backup, and also the ticketing system. We also have a Cisco Cloud Log to protect our Google domain for the both application, also data. So that's a quick run for pretty much everything.
So we only get $30,000 from E-rate?
Yes. So actually for that, I like to explain how that works. There's a 3 pieces involved for the E-rate part. First, the E-rate cover very specific things. It only cover for network equipment, like the switch and also access point. Majority of the hardware we need, like the laptop, desktop, project, smart, those are not covered. So that's number 1. So number 2 is it allocates for base for student. Like for example, the money is likely very specific for each building. For example, high school has the most students, and also high school has the most need for that. And the E-rate money allocated for high school is almost used 100%. For other buildings, we usually have important stuff, but the thing is they don't like high school. They only have certain network needs, so you can see like less need. Even they have more money allocated for the need is not there. The third piece is the money is limited per year, so we can only use certain amount for the network, but majority of the need is for non-E-ratable stuff. That's why the three pieces together. That's why you can see some difference there.
So, sticking with the E-rate, we're paying $18,000 for a consultant, or of some sort, and I'm wondering, isn't that something that we could pick up? Because that's just filling out paperwork and timing, right?
I'm not sure if that's really a cheat question or to answer, or Pat, if you want to chime in on that.
I think it's a little bit more than just filling out a form.
Yeah, I think it is too.
They need copies of all kinds of bills. Which you provide. Which you provide, right? Which we provide. And to tell you the truth, to take a chance and miss out on a funding opportunity, we viewed it in the past as something that, why we've continued with the consultant.
Can we, because I see where this is going, can we get you to speak with that person? I mean, is this just kind of an evergreen thing? We've got somebody that we give them whatever, but we need to understand what it is that they do for us. Sure. Could you come report back to us and fill us in on what is it that they do? What's the value of what they do? If they weren't here, where would we be exposed? That would be, I think that might get to, because your question's valid, and I don't want to put Pat on the spot without having the opportunity to provide the information. Because again, evergreen to me, like, evergreen should still be questioned.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cindy, back a few years ago, we didn't have a consultant.
Yeah.
We had a consultant that made a mistake, and we had to go back after them.
Right. Legally. Yep.
So
I think that this is a good thing for us to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you, Pat. I appreciate that. Good question. Anything? I have a lot.
Okay.
But I'll let you say something, but not that.
No, I have a question about that internet line.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. It jumped more. It's more than double the internet and the wireless access network. Like, what is that?
Actually, which line is that?
That's Comcast Internet 2GP.
That's the move to 2.
Actually, for that, there's a two-part also involving that. First, so what you see is what I budgeted, but in the end, what we actually pay will be different. First, we gonna get like 40 or 50% rebate from the E-rate for that. Second, when we budget a little bit extra just in case we need. Right now, we only pay for 1 gig internet connection, but we budget for 2 gig. So by the end of the year, that number will drop. If you don't need 2 gig, we only pay for 1 gig. So that's why, like, the number you see from last year is actually what we pay, and also after E-rate. But the one we put in is we have to budget the full amount in the beginning.
So here again, though, you're gonna hear the same old broken record out of me. Here again, this is not criticism on you. You've got to understand that it's not. We're anticipating. We know it's not going to be this. My concern is if we were to adopt the budget as is right now, we roll into FY 2021 with an exorbitant number in this line item and others that if it does work out over the course of the year, the actual is much less than the planned. Are we rolling the planned into the next year's budget? Are we rolling in the actual? And it's on the school committee to challenge the administration on that, because, and I'm not saying that you would do anything untoward. That's not my point.
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah, no, it really isn't. Because if we're every year we get into this, things are getting tougher and tougher and more challenging for us. And with technology, we're adding Chromebooks, ergo, we're going to need additional technology support. But I worry that with things getting so tight that if we're struggling to give the schools what they need in lieu of making sure all this other stuff is there, you just got to stay on top of where these dollars are going. Steve?
My comment is when we get the monthly statements, we see what we've actually spent
Versus
to that
the
point,
plan.
plus what the commitment is to the rest of the budget.
Right.
Here we're not seeing any actual expenses we're looking at what we budgeted for fiscal year 19 as opposed to what we're now trying to budget for fiscal year 20.
The actuals.
We don't see any actuals here.
So let's think about this for a second. And again, I don't want to go down a dogleg, but you raise a good point. In order for us to be most effective in the planning for this year's budget, should we be, I mean, we're not going to ask you guys to go back and take this entire book
Can't even imagine.
and give us actuals. However, Steve's point is well taken. We're making decisions based on asks, not actuals, and I think that's a valid point. So we got to figure out what we're going to end up doing here, and if let's talk about the big ticket items, and maybe we chomp at those. So maybe it's technology, maybe, as we get into some of these other areas, we ask for, here's what we voted on last year, here's what your actual is, and then here's what your requested is. When we're talking about, large extraordinary need, and you have large extraordinary need this year for the right reasons, right? I'm really happy to see that the high school may finally get the support that they need, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that. I understand why you need additional internet and wide area network support. I understand why the hardware, I want to talk about why the hardware purchases went up, but we added another grade level to it, so of course it's going to go up. Am I getting close?
Yes, but there are a couple of things I would like to make the committee aware after you're done.
No, you can jump in now, interrupt me, I'm good with that.
So for E-rate in particular, there are two things I would like everybody here to make aware. First is, E-rate is never 100% guarantee, especially with what's going on with the current administration, the government.
Yep.
So if we do not get E-rate, so we could be in a very tough situation. And second, for the budget, we currently pay for 1 gig connection, but we budget for 2. Every month during the leadership meeting, I show all the principals, central admin staff, the actual usage. We're actually very close to the 1 gig, to the limit we're now. So with all this Chromebook deployment, if schools start actually using more,
right,
we could see a sudden jump on a monthly basis. So if we do not have that budget, we could be in a very awkward situation.
Yeah.
Especially with all the MCAS, all green, all.
That's exactly
right. For the first time, I think we can say, you've known it all along, that your area could have deep impacts on learning.
Yes.
And I don't know that we would have been at this place in the past, but we have now hit the wall where you do need additional, and I think we can all grasp that. So I'm not worried about that, and your explanation is very helpful. Thank you for that. One of the questions I have is, and we're going to go back to you, is on the school operation budget. You went from we went from a voted 99,000. Again, we don't know what the actual spend was, and we need to see that. Pat, we need to see this updated with the actuals. Can you guys do that?
This year?
Actual plus encumbered.
Do you have, are these line items in the budget?
Yeah, all of them are in the budget.
So what, would it be a big effort for you to add for technology, not the whole budget, for tech?
Oh, just for technology?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant for the whole budget.
No, and I think we'll be really critical about what we ask this of from you, but I think this area, because I think we all recognize the significant need and the detrimental impact that it will have on the learning and the operations of teaching in the district. I think we need that, so it was a terrific suggestion. Thank you for that. But Suchi, on the school operation line item, the ask, again, Steve, you know what? Thanks for putting that on our heads. The ask was 99,000. We don't know if where that landed. Do you guys have that at your fingertips? But if you don't, that's okay. Let me know. Interrupt me if you do. And this year, it's an additional 33,000, so it's jumped by 30%, 33%. Is that what? Can you you don't have to explain what each of these programs is or licenses is, but could you just collectively tell us what happened there?
Are you focused on the hardware line?
The school operation.
School operation.
School operation on page 3.
Last page. It's
the last page, Chief.
Believe it or not, the hardware is the easiest to understand.
Yeah, we get that.
Since we're adding a grade.
Do you see where it went from voted of 99
to the 133?
To 130 with Microsoft School License Agreement, IO Education, Power School, PS, EMS.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of the last bullets on our prepared notes for today.
And the only reason I ask is because I know you know what these are. You don't have to tell me what each one is. I just want to collectively understand.
The school operation Actually, a big item change is from the website hosting, that over like 12,000. That one used to be in the contracted services. That one moved to here.
Oh.
That is big.
So that was an audit, that was a housekeeping move.
And also on top of that, we have this additional almost 6,000 for the website compliance monitor. I'm not sure if you guys heard the news, like famous Beyonce, I think her name is.
Beyonce?
Somebody like sued her website because I think the people is blind. She can't see her website because her website is not compliant with all this.
We need website
So this service is to protect us for all the visual impacted those folks. So those are the big items. Those two items are almost 20 grand.
All right,
So
so
that's
you said the contracted services, so is that the light speed filter? Is that what moved? You said something,
No, the website hosting plus the school messenger.
where is that?
It's
Here it is.
second from the
But there
bottom,
was
yeah.
0 voted last year, so I'm not.
No, it's right.
See,
Are you
website
still not in
hosting.
school operation, because it's right there in school?
No, I think what I heard she say was that the reason that number went up in part is because the contracted services went down. But I'm trying to see, where did the contracted services go down? Because I see that it went up for internet and wide area network.
Yes, but that part, like I said, that is before the E-rate. You have to take away like almost 40 or 50%.
Depending on if we get
Depending on
the
if we
E-rate,
get that.
if the E-rate is available to us.
All right, so there's like a lot of squish in these numbers,
Yeah,
like
there
a
is.
wicked amount of squish. So, and that is not a technical term, but I think I would like to ask that, and we quickly get, not for Wednesday, because Wednesday's jam-packed, but on the next meeting, and we may have to move some regular business off during budget season, and if that's the case, so be it. But please bring forward the district technology FY voted, FY actual, FY 20, so we can have a really juicy conversation, and we need to dedicate 20 minutes to that. Does that sound like it will work for you guys?
Okay.
You are like not a happy woman. What's going on?
That's really great, but again, I'm back to, I mean, these are really large numbers, and we're gonna keep adding to it, and we still haven't talked about how we're gonna sustain it.
Well, I think we are sustaining it. This is what's happening. So I'm not gonna challenge you, Lynn, that's not it, but I mean, we've known each other a long time. And then I'm gonna turn it over to you. You tell me if I'm right or wrong, because I'm not defending or being critical. I'm just, this to me is where it feels like we've been for a long time. If the district has made a commitment to move to one-to-one initiative, and we've pushed that down into the lower grades now. So we have, what, 6 grades that are now covered by
Yes.
grades 6 through 12. We know that the hardware is going to increase. We know that the support is going to increase. We know that the bandwidth that we need in order to support those implements is going to increase. That is the plan. And I think Todd brought forward at the beginning of the school year how this was going to kind of roll out, so it could be evergreen, so that we didn't have to have those big huge spikes and then nothing and then a big huge spike. So
This is gonna grow, and we have no options as we move forward, because we're tied into Comcast. We can't go anywhere, and this is the number that's gonna keep going crazy. All right?
So is there an option to look at another, is that the carrier you're concerned about?
Well, it isn't even just, there's just other things. We're tying our hands here because we're not giving ourselves options as we move forward where you can negotiate. And then even with these keep adding one-to-one, I mean, I can only tell you about personally my daughter and her friends. I mean, in 6 of them, 3 of them have had 3 computers, like just because they either drop or they go. And I'm like, there's no accountability for anybody getting a one-to-one. There's just a lot of pieces that we're putting onto the school, and I'm not exactly sure that it's totally the school's responsibility.
What are your thoughts on that?
Actually, there are a couple of things I can explain. So regarding the accountability, starting this year, we actually take very seriously look at that. If we notice the damage or the whatever to the machine is malicious damage, we actually send a bill to the parents. And we have very straightforward like a process. We're working with the local school, my department, and also with the accounting department. Once we identify this is a malicious damage, the parents will pay. So we have that in place. So that's number one. Second, regarding the internet connections, we do have options, but unfortunately right now we don't, because the Sweden Comcast is not even, actually not Comcast, Verizon is not available in this town. Because we have a district, we can't bring that service to all towns, so we couldn't use it. So every year, like when we, not every year, like during all the contract period, we went out looking for different options. The only one actually worked well for us is Comcast, not only because of their service, the performance, also reliability, but also because of the cost. We do have like other vendors come in here, present their options, solutions. The cost is just way too much compared to Comcast. And another thing is, another option we seriously look at is build our own fiber, private fiber. The reason we did not do that purely is because of uncertainty of high school. Because if we do a private fiber, we need a central place. So naturally, high school will be the hub for that, at the center and reach out to other schools. But with uncertainty of if we're getting a new high school there or not, we can't risk to put this large amount of initial invest in there. Then after that, 2 years later, we have new building, we have to lock down everything. It's gonna be like disaster cost-wise to the district. So that's one reason we didn't go that direction. But that is the option.
So we're locked into Comcast and there are no options? I'm not questioning you again, I'm asking the question.
Yep.
There's no other option, because I know this is a problem even in Bolton for residents that are unhappy with Comcast. The service, the cost. So there's no, how can we find?
For right now, I hate to say this, purely from cost point of view, we kind of, the only choice, the best choice is Comcast. Like I said, we do have other options. We bring out other vendors coming here, but the proposals they give us is way more expensive than Comcast.
Is it more expensive initially and then it tapers off, or is it consistent?
Same thing. Like there are two parts. One is the initial cost, one is after the monthly cost.
We paid a lot of money about 5 years ago to put in our own fiber. So you're saying that's not ours?
That's not our own fiber. That's, I think, I don't know, that is not our own fiber.
So we paid a lot of money not to own it?
It's an initial.
I don't understand.
Well, wait, let him answer.
It's a Comcast, it's so-called the last mile connection. Basically, Comcast, all these big players, even Verizon, they have fiber optic connection on the pole already.
Yep.
But for them to connect from the pole to the actual building is the so-called last mile connections. Those belong to Comcast still.
Okay, just from sitting here though, I know that we paid a lot of money to run fiber between all of the schools.
That's Comcast connection, yes.
But we paid for it. It's our wire. It's our fiber.
It is not. According to the agreement, it is not.
So we paid for it, installed it, but we have no.
Well, did we? All right. So I want to follow this thread for a second. Gee, hold on one second.
Yep.
Were we told we had to pay for it? And did the money actually go there? Are we in another one of those bizarro throwback moments? It's a retro moment.
This is one of those things that we asked for it because I think we owned it for the contract because it was supposed to connect all the schools. But because we're in different districts, we had to pay for it.
Different towns.
So we bought the wire and we bought the fiber. We paid for the installation.
We did not.
We paid for installation?
Yes. Let me explain this way. Just like.
Because that was over $300,000.
Just like your private home, you have Comcast service. Comcast will run a line to your home, then provide service. You pay service after that. But that service, that line is still Comcast. It's not anybody's. It's still Comcast property. Same as us. The difference is when Comcast run connecting private home, the private home do not pay Comcast. But for us, we pay for that connection. That's the only difference. But we do not own that.
All right. Why don't we do this? I think we're going to have more conversation on it, and I think this needs to go to another school committee meeting. I'm going to ask you folks, Chi, first I want you to understand that your presentation was excellent this year. Thank you so much. Appreciate the level of detail. It was the right amount of detail. I appreciate the fact that you had the answers that you did. So you should feel really good about that. Our questions are not our questions are because we truly need to understand this, because you are going to become a bigger and bigger part of what this district does and delivers. We're your partner in this. We're not being critical of you. We really need to understand it, and there were many things that were said in previous years that now we're kind of like, wait a minute, we were told this, but it's something else. It's not you.
Understand.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and 1 second. And so what I'd really like for us to do is let's put a juicy let's put a bluesy chunk of time. It's Saturday morning, for God's sakes, I've had 1 cup of coffee, all right? A big chunk of time on the agenda. Pat, I think that the retool of how we're presenting this, and I hate to say this, but I'm holding myself back from saying, please do the whole budget like that, because I know you'll probably have a coronary, and I don't want you to do that. We love you. But for this area, it's absolutely critical, and then we'll see as we roll. So we're going to ask you to come back. School committee members in this area, and you're going to have questions too. Please coordinate those questions. I want them to be very succinct and very specific. Send them to me. I'll get back to you if there's something that doesn't make sense, and then we'll hand that over to the superintendent to make sure that the time that we're going to set aside for this follow-up discussion is really specific, and we're able to get to the things we need to and stay on track.
What do you want the questions about?
You have another week, because we're not going to be able to get it in for Wednesday's meeting. 13th. It would be February 13th, yeah.
So you want them before that?
I would like them by next Wednesday, or no, by the Wednesday previous, so that would be the 6th. If you could get them to me by February 6th, that gives you time to take this back, think about it. All right, now, so are we good? Don't leave.
I'm good.
All right, you're good. Steve, you wanted to make a comment.
The only comment I wanted to make is that we're dealing with 2 separate things here, okay? One is the technology and how we roll technology into the system. But the other is definitely a budget question, and these were questions, kind of things that I was going off the wall with last year, the way we present some of the numbers. I don't really care what we voted for fiscal year 19 is fine, but it's really important to know what we've actually spent. We're over 6 months into the time now, what we've spent and what we've committed. Like, she gives us the numbers on a monthly basis on some of these, broken down into these.
So your point was well taken, and we are moving that absolutely into, so I appreciate what you're saying. I think we hit that one, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Okay, any other questions for Chief? Are we good? What time is it? We're supposed to.
7 minutes behind.
You have a 2-minute break. We'll be back there at 10:20.
Keep in mind that the cameras are continuing.
For 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna get started. We're late. What? I don't know who you were talking to. Oh, Sean O'Shea. No. Susan. Up at the high school. Yes. Bigelow. Hi, Teaching and Learning, Cindy Larson, Coordinator of Digital Learning, and Martina Kenyon, Coordinator Extraordinaire of Curriculum K-12. Please do share with us your teaching and learning.
All right. So we just wanted to start off by saying thanks again for the opportunity to present this budget this year, and we love coming to give the principal presentations as a reminder of sort of the consistency and cohesiveness that we've worked to develop over the last few years, and we appreciate being part of that team and being able to support a lot of the school-based initiatives on the district level. So the budget we are presenting today kind of represents that collaboration, another layer of that collaboration. So our budget represents a district-wide effort to support educators in supporting student learning that really empowers students to use and apply knowledge that they're gaining in meaningful ways, and to utilize technology to build and demonstrate their own understanding. And we've talked about that over the last couple of years. As an example, as a result of the support from this year's budget, our grade 8 science students recently completed a project where they researched a science cause of interest and then developed a public service announcement that they used to teach their classmates about this cause that they were passionate about. And it presented some great interdisciplinary opportunities with social science, ELA, and math, actually, in terms of the different things that kids had to do. And that was a direct result of the collaboration that we facilitated with teachers to develop that common project and unit surrounding it. You already heard from my principal colleagues K-12 that also as a result of the budgetary support this year, students in their literacy work, K-12, are really working to get specific instruction and specific feedback to strengthen their reading skills while also having a lot of choice in terms of the reading and writing that they're doing. And we see this simultaneously building those really important skills and hopefully developing their passion for reading and writing, and it was great to hear that mentioned earlier too. So the FY20 budget really continues this focus, but adds another layer as we've recently as the state has recently approved an updated history social science framework. So a lot of the change in this year's budget reflects that state initiative as well. Just like in other content areas in history and social science, students are going to learn content, but really do that by developing skills that will take them through life, such as media literacy, civil discourse, civic engagement, and we hope that curriculum and professional development support will really help teachers facilitate that with students so that we can...
The civics is a student and staff initiative. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, there's so much opportunity for interdisciplinary work, as that small example earlier hopefully showed. So.
And Needle, please let people know about that. Because that will put pressure on us not to cut it. What's that? Say it. No.
Independent media. Pressuring me.
Independent media. Oh yeah, she's independent. I still don't know what she's gonna say. God only knows what she's gonna say. But okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That was rude.
So the budget this year supports history, social science curriculum development work, and alongside that, some district-wide professional development to support that curriculum work and instruction with students. And this actually aligns with a curriculum review cycle that we've developed in the last couple years, where we set out a vision that curriculum development includes unit development, aligned year-long scope and sequence development, but also is directly supported by specific content-related professional development that teachers use with students, but also in developing these collaborative units. So we're working towards a cohesive plan where we support instruction not only through collaboration, but actually building the capacity and skill set of our teachers who are already great, and we just want to help grow even more. So, for example, the history social science initiative that we'll work toward next year, our PD side of that will be provided in partnership with Primary Source, which is a great organization who will develop a course for us to support the 6th and 7th history and social science teachers who have once again gotten a new set of standards for their 2 courses, and actually an interesting model where it's a 2-year-long course to support student skill development. And that organization also provides a menu of existing courses that all of our teachers district-wide will be able to choose from for PD professional development. We'll also bring a consultant in to work with teachers in grades 6 to 12 in multiple content areas, supporting skills around media literacy and research, which we see growing in terms of the need for students to develop, but also to develop teachers' capacity to actually teach and build those skills. That's kind of new for us. And supporting this form of professional development systemically is kind of new for us in terms of wanting to sustain that, and that's the reason that you see, if you look in the budget detail, an updated line called content-based PD, content-based professional development. That's where we're housing that specific curriculum development-focused PD. We're also working with teachers this year to create a plan for shifting secondary ELA instruction and shared curriculum development to build upon the ongoing literacy effort in K-5. You heard my principal colleagues talk a little bit about that. You saw a presentation from Luther Burbank students that kind of represented some of that work as well. And this year, actually last year, we started a planning phase where we're collaborating with ELA teachers to develop a plan for how we will bridge the instruction and student learning K-5, which uses the reading workshop and writing workshop model with the high school, who's now incorporating a lot more choice reading and workshop-based writing into their instruction. So we're looking at how do we bridge that, particularly at the middle school level. And again, that is the next step in developing our K-12 literacy plan, where we expect the outcome to be a cohesive vision for helping students develop those really critical reading and writing skills that will take them through their academic life, but also through their life outside of school. And that PD is also found in that same content-focused PD line. And Cindy's going to talk a little bit about our new line called instructional software, which we took over from the technology budget and is now in teaching and learning.
So that's interesting before you do that. So the increases that we saw through Chi don't include this that typically would have been in that? Right. So we're going to want a holistic view of all of the tech spend as well, I think. Respect that and it makes sense that it's where it belongs, but I think we need a unified understanding of the total spend. Because this number is big. I'm not saying it's too big, we just need to understand. Okay, go ahead, Cindy.
Okay. So strengthening our uses of technology, instructional technology continues to be a focus in all of our grades, with emphasis on the 6 to 12 support for the one-to-one program. And in order to support our district goal of empowering students through innovative uses of technology, we're adding to the software line item this year a system that will organize, analyze, and streamline our classroom technologies in the one-to-one environment. So the name of the system is Learn Platform, and it will provide information on which tools are being used to their fullest capabilities, how often they're being used. In addition, it will help teachers select appropriate digital tools and help all of us make budgeting decisions in the future purchases and inform us on professional development. It's an online system that is works in real time. So we can see what teachers are using, how often they're using it, and how they're using it. So that would be new to this line item this year.
And that's it. We tried to keep it succinct.
Okay, so I know they're going to have questions. I want to jump into a couple things. So again, the technology comprehensive view, there's a lot of asks here. I think back of the napkin net is 120,000 increase over last year's voted again, which doesn't give us a perspective to understand what we actually spent. And you know where I'm going, right? I'm sorry, but anyway, we can talk about it offline. I think we're going to have to do that for the majority, well, for the budget. But we can talk about it. I don't want to commit you right now. Civics. This is an initiative from the state.
Yes, and it's also there was a bill passed that also requires that students take on civics projects in a couple grade levels.
How are we responding to the state's requirement? And by that I mean, are we going over and above? Because I would love to hear you say yes.
We always try to, but we are we're trying to be strategic in planning this, but one of our 3-year visions is to build a civics plan, K-12, to work with teachers to incorporate civic engagement work throughout the curriculum instead of having it focused in only a few grade levels. So that is one of the ways that we're trying to go.
So even through some of the after-school programs and blah, blah, blah.
I will definitely take that suggestion. But we're just starting this work now.
Yeah, I think, one of the best byproducts that came out of the ugly at the national level, I don't care what anybody's political leanings are, that's not my point, is people are more aware and we need more of that. That's part of turning out kids who are ready to hit the ground running and make a difference, right?
Absolutely, and we're so fortunate and excited that we actually have a leg up on a lot of districts already through this new curriculum because we've been teaching civics in grade 8, where that's actually now the new standards expect that, whereas they didn't as actively in the past. And so it's been a great starting point for us because the team's been able to build off of some really strong work in there already and just say, okay, how can we now take this to another level where we're really trying to develop students' skills as civically engaged students, and also with some of that media literacy that I talked about.
So Martina, if the STEM Scopes programs were involved, the asks were included in the school-based budgets, but you've got components of it in here, or do you not?
I don't have any.
Oh, so the science, it says 0. Never mind. I was wrong.
We try to keep you like seeing 1 year of history in terms of what we've asked, but especially with district textbook adoption, you're going to see a lot of zeros in one area or another as we shift our initiative and our focus.
All right. And I think it is going to be helpful to see what we did last year. Who else has questions for Martina? Lynn?
Because this is a state mandate, are there any grants?
I did apply for a grant recently, actually, to support this work. I haven't heard yet that we were accepted, but the one that came out, we did. We went after it, so we'll keep our fingers crossed.
So
It was very competitive.
So do you have a timeline on, I mean, I love that you're going to make a plan. Is there a timeline for it?
For what part of it?
For the civics.
So the timeline is really that we've just put out a posting for a history social science committee who will be charged with developing this plan, but it is about
It's really the
2 to 3
infancy
years out.
stage.
Yeah. It's just starting.
Yeah, I get it.
So what? So
I'm looking at 3 years.
3 years for it to be completed, but you're starting it for next year.
For starting even to just plan how we're going to roll out all the different components of our history social science framework, which includes civics, so that in 3 years we'll be fully.
Civics is not standalone in this particular
So it's
discussion.
totally history.
It's all
incorporated.
It's a whole thing, so it's a whole big thing that we need to deal with.
Okay, and so these asks are actually to start some of that work, right?
Yes.
So we're going to flush it out?
Yeah.
Okay. And I got one on a different
Oh, I'm
subject.
sorry. Go ahead.
So instructional software, some of these sound familiar, like Brain Pop and Rubicon Atlas, and there was no money for it last year, and there is this year. And so I'm wondering,
Why?
No, I think that's just
You have to
because,
flip back to the other one.
yeah. Because if you take a look, now Pat, maybe just clarify this, because these say zeros here, I think that's probably what's confusing to Lynn or to anybody looking at this, quite frankly. It doesn't mean that that all of this is all brand new.
Right, it's been moved from.
It's just, it's in the budget.
So
And
I think again, we need to indicate that in the description section, because people looking at it be like, wow, you
This is
gotta.
all brand new, and it's not.
And you know what, Pat?
Good
It
question,
may be
Lynn.
even easier, like in the instructional software new account one,
okay.
is in that gray bar, just to put a description so it doesn't screw up all your lines, but whatever you want to do.
Right, it does say they are moved from technology budget.
Oh, you're right. All right.
Okay, so I guess my question is, only because I don't like assessments. So I'm looking at these and I'm just wondering, did we reviewed these and we know that these are actually working and helpful?
Yes, I mean, so we've really been strategic in terms of which assessment tools that we invest in. So the two that are listed there, Edulastic is an awesome tool. I know a lot of many principals are still here. It prepares students for that next generation assessment. We use it K-12 and the data side because it's auto-scored. Teachers are spending their time looking at the data and trying to plan instruction as a result, and giving students feedback instead of just the typical, like scoring side. It's awesome. It's an awesome tool.
Lynn, you'll recall that we started to take a look at this when I first came into the district. We said we wanted to look at all of these assessments, and we've done that. I don't think we've ever reported it out, but we've done that.
So just from the back thing, I'm just going to throw this out because I want to come full circle. So we were collecting a lot of information but not doing anything with it. So we changed that model.
We are really working
We
hard
worked
to change
very
it.
hard to
There are some
use it.
things limiting us in terms of being efficient with that, but it's on our radar, and it's also a passion project for both Cindy and I to try to streamline our
Good,
data
yeah.
aggregation and be able to act upon it, because we don't want to assess students unnecessary. That's
So it's
unnecessary.
refreshing to hear that when we ask questions about programs, it's like, well, we really don't use it, but we're gonna. So,
Yeah.
No, I
thank
don't
you
think
for
we
that.
have any of that at play. No.
Love it.
All right, we're gonna move, unless it's really quick, because I want to get Cindy to kind of do what she can do.
Yep, just real quick, and just so, my daughter's in Mr. K's class, and she's been going through her bills, so it's totally, my kids didn't do it, so they're into it. Oh, he is anyway, so.
Good. Well, that's because he's a good teacher.
Absolutely.
Don't leave. Okay, Cindy, what do you got? Thank you.
So
She already did her.
Oh! Oh!
So the new item in that instructional software was the Learn platform that I talked about. All the other systems are ones that we use.
So your biggest asks are?
For the instructional technology would be the Learn platform software, because right now the analyzation of how we use and what we use and how often we use it is like manual reports that I do. It also will provide us the ability to choose software, because it's aggregated information from all over the United States. I'm not sure if it goes outside the country, but they can learn from other teachers. It brings everybody together who's using similar software. Teachers rate it, they can communicate with each other. There's tutorials, so that's something that I've been doing manually. And this will help really aggregate and bring more information and really let us support the one-to-one.
And it's being brought down to the teacher level, so the teacher can actually.
That's correct. It will provide them, when they're using it, PD, just learning more about how to select appropriate software.
Informally.
Right, because there's a lot of free software out there, so.
Okay,
Yeah, so the Learn platform, the way you're describing it sounds like kind of another layer of technology.
Yes.
So you've got the programs, and then this is going to analyze the programs.
Yes.
Is the goal of this, because it's not inexpensive, to sort of pay for itself by eliminating programs that aren't being used or aren't as well, or are we just learning to optimize what we already have?
No, it's going to help us for future decisions, absolutely.
But will
And
you be able to
hopefully save-
eliminate?
Right, and streamline and save. So if we're not using tools to its fullest capabilities, we don't want to continue to purchase those tools.
Right.
We need to analyze and look at other ones. This, it's hard for me to describe because we haven't used it yet. I've only seen demos of it. I know that Todd has used it in Danvers and highly recommends it. Knowing all the hours that I put into doing that manually, I would really look forward to something that would even bring more to the district than just, one person going through everything. I was going to say, but I think it will also supplement professional development around technology integration.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Thank you, ladies.
Thank
We're gonna
you.
move quickly here. What's that?
Is Martinez a separate ask?
No, I think, did you have a separate ask?
Would you have a priority?
What was your
My
priority?
priorities are the ones that spoke of history, social science support, and then the literacy initiative to build K-12.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving to nursing. Lisa.
Well, again, as everyone else has said, I want to thank you for allowing me to follow through with the budget and requests for your consideration for health services. I do want to bring to the attention that since 2001, the health services across the district was supported by district budget as well as Essential School Health Service Grant, which was funded by DPH. This grant is in its final year this year, but the cycle and those funds will no longer be available.
How much is that? How much is that, Lisa?
Around 77.
What did that cover? What did that cover?
$77,900. It covered part of some of my request here is a salary request of 1 FTE which the Essential School Health Grant, it's not a new position, it's one that was funded by the Essential School Health Grant, and asking for the district to absorb that so we can continue to maintain a full-time nurse at each school across the district, as well as 2 at the high school. That request to absorb the increase will allow the health services to continue to support student health and wellness by decreasing absenteeism and increasing our return to class rate. Research has shown that if we don't have a full-time nurse or part-times, that we tend to send them home quicker when somebody's not there, as opposed to keeping them in school. So we're really trying to keep down that chronic absenteeism because they continue to do assessments and surveillances on illnesses.
Where do we not have a nurse, Lisa?
We do, but if we don't, we have 1.0 FTEs that the grant was supporting. We have 9.5 FTEs in nursing, but one of those FTEs was supported by the Essential School Health Grant, and the grant is no longer this year.
I thought you said that. I thought you said that the FY 2020 was the last year. It's 2019 that's the last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that would have been presented in last year's budget if it was known. I didn't start until November, and it wasn't brought to our attention that they were eliminating, they were not going to apply for that grant, which has happened since 2001. Every 5 years they reinstated it if you applied for it, and this year they decided to move it and have a whole new grant in its place.
Okay, so 1 second. So one of the things I think we need when you guys come back with your next we need something on an executive summary slide that indicates grants that we know are going away.
Sure.
I think it's going to be really important because this is one where I'd be like, oh, come on, really? But, oh, come on, really? Okay.
So that's, again, it's the positions that currently they're not asking for a new position, just the transfer of salaries. As far as non-salary requests, again, with the end of the grant, our mission and goal is to continue to foster safe and supporting learning environments, and that's including our safety initiative and plans that we've had in place. That, again, some of the grant and the district had supported and will continue to support this year, but looking forward into next year, we'll see a slight increase in 200 increase in each school to absorb some of those supplies and nursing equipment, which does look at continuing for SEL curriculum in the health education realm, K through 2, as well as the high school. And then for our last line there, and obviously we also have some increases there, which I'm sure you're going to ask about, but as far as AEDs and things like that, the AEDs, I knew you were going to come there, so I'll go there. The AED this year, every 4 years, the batteries expire, and that's the increase in the cost. So the district will have to absorb or supply those batteries to AEDs.
And not a criticism, but a flat number I'm suspicious of, so just try to get a little tighter in your next iteration with what these numbers are actually. It's closer you can get than these big, brown, fluffy, pillowy things. Not a criticism on you or anyone else, it's just...
Do you want those? I have them.
No, don't do it now.
Oh, okay,
Give it to
that's
them.
fine. Okay. I thought that you were asking them, like I have it broken down by where they are, what location.
No, it's just a general comment.
Oh, okay.
Fluffy numbers scare me.
Oh, okay. And then, obviously, our nursing professional development is remaining the same as Ms. Curran's point.
Okay. Alice training.
Yes.
Oh, are you not done yet?
No, I am. I'm ready for questions. Yeah.
Alice training. So I hope no one says no to this.
So the Alice training, we bought into a 3-year contract for the Alice, so it wasn't just a one and done, which we want to continue the process. It's a 3-year for us, then would we be considered an Alice community trained. So the first year, as you're well aware, we had the 2-day training and online training. That cost for the 3 years is just shy of $18,000. So the grant last year picked up the first just shy of $6,000, $5,994. This year, the grant, I've allocated funds aside for it. It's the last year, the 3rd year, which is why you see the increase in $6,000 for the Alice. It was the last year of the grant.
So maybe in that description, you could put final of 3-year, whatever, so that people know that this is,
It's ongoing.
Yeah, well, it's not that it's ongoing, it's the final of a series, right?
Correct.
Because then you're gonna be ready, you're gonna be able to do it.
And I do it simultaneously with this program. What this program is allowing the district to do is to actually everybody viewing the same online program at whether it be the same time or not. As we have new employees start throughout the year, the principals know to alert me, and I will add them so they can take it. So somebody that started tomorrow can actually take it. So it's not just at the beginning of the year and you won or you lose it. So we have the licensure for $600 a year to take it. So we leave some cushion for new employees, substitutes, etc.
So safety in the schools, I know, is something, so is that coming up in your budget or Rob's?
Rob has some.
Cameras, blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right, I won't ask that. Any quick questions for Lisa? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Awesome.
Nice
Thank
work.
you, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving. Facility, and here he comes.
Mr. Black Cloud.
And who said that? You did? You better have a
I just want to start by thanking the school committee and the communities across the district for their continued support in maintaining the buildings.
And I want to say one thing to you quick. Don't worry about us being over. It's much more important that we have the opportunity to talk to you guys and ask our questions. I apologize to anyone who's uncomfortable with the time limit, but we only got one time to do this a year. All right, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Continued support for maintaining the complex and aging buildings that we have across the district, and providing a safe and healthy learning environment for the staff and the students. One of my requests this year is for a new position in the grounds and building department. The Neshoba Facilities Department is looking to add one full-time employee to the building and grounds department. Adding a third team member to the building and grounds department will allow the department to fulfill proper maintenance to grounds, sports fields, and buildings across the district on a daily basis. Having the ability to take the time to benefit for a better finished product instead of rushing from one task to another. Currently, it is a daunting task to get from one side of the district to the other on any given day to perform mowing and grounds maintenance tasks. During the sports seasons, 60+% of the time is dedicated to the high school to ensure that all sports fields are mowed, painted, and prepped for games on a daily basis, along with maintaining outside equipment that pertains to athletic teams, including bleachers and concession building areas. This does not leave a lot of time to tend to the other school properties. Adding another full-time team member will allow the head custodian to utilize his professional skill set, concentrating more on conditioning and maintaining both natural and artificial fields, playgrounds, and other areas for safe play for students and athletes. Allow for more time to be spent on building repairs and small construction projects. Allow for more time for regular maintenance on grounds and other equipment across the district. Safety pruning of trees and bushes for better visibility for security and overall aesthetics. Having a third team member will allow the department to branch off across the district as support for custodians in the other buildings during snow removal operations. I feel by adding a third team member to the ground and buildings department will further enhance the overall curb appeal so that students, staff, and general public have a safe, clean, and inviting environment entering our campuses across the district. That will also it'll fall under the UNC contract.
Are you good?
I'm good.
All right. I haven't even finished totaling up your.
Do you have a calculator?
No, I'm doing it manually just so it hurts more. Let me just pick a couple pieces and then I'll turn it over to my friends on the school committee. NRHS, under the scheduled maintenance projects, is that both or one of the major projects out there, the tank and the leach field?
So on the scheduled maintenance sheet is that is the oil tank.
$600,000?
No. 400.
Oh wait, wait a minute.
I'm not sure how it's broken down on here. So I have a separate sheet here with scheduled maintenance projects.
Okay, I'm looking, all right.
Are you on page 3 at the top? that where you are?
Hang on a second, yeah, I'm looking at, I was looking at the total, but for NRHS, it says it's a $400,000 increase over last year's ask, which means we need to know what the actual
So
was.
there's two, obviously the leach field, and I think that's under DEP compliance and inspections, and then the oil tank. One
So what is,
solution right now is, that came in, is at $225,000 for the oil tank. That's not a given, that's just one scenario that's come in. We're exploring every option possible, what the best fit would be for that school.
so I'm still not getting it, maybe because I'm still trying to choke down the numbers, the increase on the NRHS line item for maintenance projects is $403,000. So what is up?
There's a lot of items that need to get done.
What are they?
At the high school. Obviously, the big one is the $225,000 for the oil tank.
And I'm going to speak to that and the leach field when you're done with this, because in a perfect world, I would almost prefer that we have further discussion of those items outside of this.
All right.
Remember that this.
But I get that, I'm sorry, I want to jump in. I just want to know what's in that
Sure,
number.
yeah, I'll go through some items right here.
Yeah.
We have a lot of HVAC repair and replacement issues at the high school. There's a lot of compressors that have failed or due to, or almost failure that need to be replaced. That total right now is looking like around $64,000. We have flooring repairs across the high school. Floors are ranging from 20 to 30 years old. So there's some areas that are starting to fail, so we need to repair those. We have a wireless clock system that we're looking to put in place. Right now at the high school, we have a mishmash of a clock system. We have some battery operated clocks, we have some hardwired clocks, so we're looking to integrate that all into a wireless system so that there's consistency across the high school as far as time tracking goes. I know Paul, you can speak to that. Wanting to get that done. In the auditorium, we have a lot of lighting and control issues in the auditorium as far as performances and programs during the day. So we're looking to upgrade that. We're looking at a $20,000 price tag on that. We're looking to it's going to be a phased approach to upgrading the door hardware on the interior classrooms, all the interior doors, so that in a lockdown situation, staff does not have to go into the hallway to lock the doors, which they currently have to do. So you'll be able to lock it from inside the classroom and not put anybody in jeopardy in going inside the classroom. That's probably going to be around a $75,000 to $100,000 price tag, all said and done, but it's going to be a phased out approach. Upper gym needs to be resurfaced. It needs to be sanded down to the bare hardwood and resurfaced, which would include repainting all the lines. Some of the lines that are currently there now don't meet the MIA rules and regulations, so those will all come up to code, and then polyurethane put back down on top of that. That's pretty much what I have for the high school.
So I think we're going to take questions, but I think I'm going to ask that we bring Rob back again. You have $1 million over last year's ask, which again doesn't really tell us, so we need the actuals. $1 million is a lot now. I am not saying it's not valid. I think what I'd love for you to come back with is to give us what we spent last year, what we're spending this year, and then just a page on priorities. Priorities broken out by safety constraints and needs. Those to me are non-negotiable. And then other non-negotiable, like we have no choice, DEP, and we should fix those things. And then anything that falls under that is below the line. Like nice and pretty, for me, is below the line. Sure. And I hope to God we don't see next year nice and pretty. Not on you, on all of you, that we don't see nice and pretty after spending all this money, because we really need to focus on this year. One of the things that I know is not going to be a popular discussion, but I need to bring it up, is the vehicle. So, and I know you should feel free to speak to it. I worry about I know what the discussion point was a couple of years ago, and that was that if we had money left over at the end of the year, that we would take that money and apply it to new vehicles for the district every year, so that,
One a year.
so that we don't get ourselves in a tough spot.
Where we were when I came in.
Right, I understand that, but I am gonna really question the vehicle this year. I mean, last year, if it was, the floor was rotted out, well, that's a problem. But if it's just, we just wanna be evergreen, I wanna hear more about the vehicle.
Okay, and again, that probably would be at a different discussion than right here, unless you want us to.
What is it?
The vehicle that we're proposing this year is replacement of one of the transition vans for the transition program at the high school. That program, I'm sure everybody knows what the program is. It takes the students in, brings them out into the workplace so they can, after they graduate from high school, they can have, gainful employment in the community. The one we're looking to replace is a 2006 Chevy Express van. So we'll be upgrading that, to a 2019, with warranties and a much more reliable vehicle.
Steve, you had a question?
No, I just remember that last year we asked that they include the vehicle replacement schedule in the budget every year.
That was last year, and I understand that,
I understand.
we can't be held to previous committees. It's something we could do, continue to do, but I question everything, and we all should question everything.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think this particular vehicle, though, I mean, it's about 16 years old, right? And it's hauling our children.
No, I mean, I get it, Brooke. I mean, that's not, that I'm not worried about, but I mean, just, that is why I asked, what is it?
Oh, yeah,
Why
no,
do we
absolutely.
think we need it? Because it shouldn't just be a rubber stamp. It should be, what is it? Why do we need it?
Yeah, I agree.
Do we ever compare this to, maybe go to the bus company for these people? Because this sounds like a consistent something. I mean, do we have like the person that drives it, are they registered to drive it?
Typically, what happens is they're based at the high school, and during the day they go out and they have different things that they do, but they're based at the high school, so to hire a bus to accommodate them during the day wouldn't be useful for them, because they go out multiple times during the day.
Yeah. So, I can't even imagine what that would be like to schedule, because it will change every day.
Well, and even if it was only
Different
$6,000 bucks a
periods,
year, 6,000 times 13 is, over 60, what is it, $78,000, and that's, I'm assuming your line item includes other components, so it's probably cheaper to purchase it
$30,000.
and maintain it and know that we're maintaining it. Elise, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I feel a little bit silly asking questions about like these little piddly amounts when we're talking about this, the big 400,000. But just to clarify some of the places, like for example, landscaping, you had 3,000 last year and 13,000. Is that because of a specific need that needs to happen in terms of landscaping?
No, it's just we're trying to improve the overall curb appeal of the the campuses. And it kind of falls back on adding the third full-time employee to the grounds department to support that person in what they're going to be doing on a daily basis.
And similar question about like the contracted plowing and sanding, that's gone up a bit from last year. Is that because the services we pay for are more expensive, or is it because we're trying to anticipate based on what we spent this year?
Yeah, and statistically, it seems like we come in around that $120,000 to $130,000 mark every year for snow removal. This year, we just had a new contract going into place, a new 3-year contract, and the price is because of salt prices, fuel prices. The contract price has increased, so that's why you see an adjustment there.
Michael?
So Rob, part of that 403,000 jump, you said included HVAC installation or repair at the high school. And I'm wondering how that compares to the HVAC and contracted services item on general repairs, which is also another 50,000. So this is under general repairs.
we're looking at the HVAC plumbing contract.
HVAC and contracted services went from 25 to 75, right?
So that's based off of numbers year to date, what we've spent for repairs because things have failed. What we're looking to do. Sorry, go ahead.
No, continue.
Take a hard look at that number this year with replacement of some of these components that have failed that we've actually had to have contractors come out and diagnose, and that's reflective in a lot of these numbers. So that might reduce that number, but with the aging facilities that we have, we're just anticipating a lot of contracted service calls.
So there's some potential overlap between some of that money that comes from the scheduled maintenance projects and the general repairs project? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I believe.
I don't know how do you define overlap? I want to make sure that there's not confusion on that.
So basically there's HVAC twice, right? There's one at general repairs, and then there's one as what you said was part of the high school scheduled maintenance projects.
All right, that's a specific project at the high school. We know we have some units that are in failure.
of things that need to get done.
Okay, and so that's different from the...
Right.
Okay.
And this is
The other
just
would be
as
if
repairs
you-
come up during the school year, that's what that line item is.
All right, unless,
I was just gonna ask about the propane conversion at Florence Ware.
Yeah.
Is this a one-time cost related to that conversion, or is this an ongoing operating cost?
No, that'll be the operation number, because we went from oil to propane over there, and that boiler plant went online in April, so we weren't really sure how much we were gonna spend, and we've gone through a third of the year, and we're about $30,000 into propane for that site. So we're just trying to forecast, what it's gonna cost to heat that building for the year.
So, are we saying that we converted to a heating fuel that costs 3 times as much as the one we had? Is that fair to say, or no?
No.
Not at all.
At the Sawyer building, we have some additional ads that need to be put in place in order for that new system to be efficient. So we have a backup oil system in the school, not that we would have to use it, but we have to anticipate that our costs aren't going to be fully realized until that full conversion of that boiler has taken place.
Okay, so this is still part of the conversion?
Right, it's still part of the conversion.
So do you really anticipate that the oil cost will stay the same?
I would anticipate that they will go down, but there's no guarantee because the prices have been going up, and that's what we're up against at this point.
so I think, unless there's some more burning, intense questions, I really think this deserves, thank you, but don't leave yet. And again, criticism not on you, not on the administration, just this is a big, big nut. We absolutely need to see the actuals in this area. I think we also need to, get tighter on the requested amount. And I would think that even after we're done here today and you guys do your next iteration, like, I get it, big round numbers, you don't even have to reduce your ask, but the next time you come, those big round numbers need to be more real and reduce your ask.
But we're working on that. I mean,
That's
you're
fine,
working.
but I mean, you can tell, I mean, we know, we get it, that's how you're doing it, but we're just gonna ask that we're a little more focused for the next round.
We have to remember too that we do have the issues of the fuel tank and the leach field, which are $500,000 altogether.
Right, well, that's why he's gonna bring forward the, no, wait a minute. That's why he's gonna respond to that, and then we'll do this. That's why Rob's bringing forward what are our priorities for safety and what are our other non-negotiable priorities, and then what falls below the line. So that's gonna happen. Go ahead, Lynn, I'm sorry.
So those are gonna have to go to the town for vote, unless we're putting them into the budget to eat.
No, not at the high school, we own it.
Yeah.
Oh, for the.
That's exactly where I was gonna go when I had a moment, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so I think we're good?
Can I just finish
Yeah,
that thinking?
absolutely.
Okay, so to your point, that's exactly what's scary, and I want to just say something to our staff, because I was the one who said, put those in the budget right now, because we have to show them somewhere. The
Yeah.
leaching field and the oil tank, because we have to do it.
Yeah.
Do I personally believe that they belong in here? No, I don't. I really don't. But I think that's why I said, like, I mean, I would have asked Rob to come back anyway. I know that you do, but I would have, because I think that discussion has to be a broader discussion. Exactly to your point. These are huge projects. And what bothers me is I don't want to be in a position where I'm having to make cuts because of these two enormous juggernauts that are sitting out there that we have to deal with.
Right.
And so, you know, I want to be careful that we don't want to say, well, you know, this area has grown $1 million. Well, we've known all along that about $500,000 of that was these two primary projects, right? So I do think, though, that we need to come back as a school committee and have some good discussion on best ways, and I think Pat can present a couple of options. We've talked about a number of different ways of trying to deal with this piece. So this is a much broader discussion than today.
You know what I think we should do too is, so if we, and yeah, I get what you're saying, I don't want half of the $1 million asked, but still $500,000 is a lot of money when you're looking at.
Oh, for sure.
Right, but so if you're gonna come back, that's one thing, but Brooke, maybe one of the things that would be really helpful too is to get to Lancaster, because they were supposed to be the next host for Tri-Town. And I think that would be a wonderful opportunity for us to get in front of all of the boards of selectmen and say, look, here's the reality. Once we have an opinion, right? So you bring it to us, we have the discussion, we take that discussion to Tri-Town.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, definitely.
I think, yeah.
So just so the public knows, I mean, leaching field and floating tank, you've been talking to the town managers on this. They know what's going on to the...
They absolutely do.
The May ballot.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Rob.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend. That's like, yay, bring me some athletics. Wait a second, where's the rug? Where's the carpet for the field? Who's got that?
Me.
Okay, thanks, Rob.
125,000?
Just come on up. Oh my God, it's like, oh.
I think it's me that Rob wants it.
Rob, you want that one
Rob,
too?
want that one?
What's that? Sorry. What?
He said yes.
Facilities takes care of everything.
That's right. We love you for that.
Ooh, ouch. Hi, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just talking to myself as I'm looking.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys for your continued support, because I don't think our program would be as successful without it. Over the last year, we've continued to have success across all sports. 90% of our varsity teams have made the postseason for playoffs. We've won 3 Central Mass sectional championships in wrestling, field hockey, and football. The teams have earned 9 league titles and 5 sportsmanship awards. And then just this past fall, the football team won the Division IV state title. So these are things that it doesn't happen in everyday schools, and we've been on a great run right now. And I thank you for your support in allowing this to happen. Some of our goals, we want to continue to maintain a competitive program across all of our sports. We want to provide opportunities for students and try to increase participation. Even though we are, like I mentioned at the last meeting that I attended, we are seeing a decrease in participation. But I want to keep giving the students opportunities in different sports to allow them to participate. And then we just continue to emphasize our leadership skills, academics, and our conduct on and off the playing field at all times. Now to kind of go into some of those non-salary requests and the budget drivers, I know a few of them look horrible. The first one I want to talk about is transportation. So transportation, we have moved and we have shifted from the revolving account back into the regular appropriated budget. And this is because over the last couple of years, we've been working on spending down our revolving accounts. And at this point, we're not going to be able to keep transportation in revolving because we're not going to have enough to cover it. So it's going back into our regular budget. So that's why I think it's maybe 100% increase. In addition with that, we're also shifting police details from our revolving account into our regular budget as well. As for our athletic supplies, some of the things that, for next year are the uniform cycle, which, as I've explained, is, every 5 years we work on getting new uniforms for varsity programs. And on the docket for next year is the boys and girls basketball teams.
And then the cross-country, indoor track, and outdoor track uniforms. Also, equipment we're purchasing equipment for the high school and middle schools to make sure that the coaches and students have the equipment to the ability to compete. And one thing too next year is because of the new state regulation around AEDs, this past year we had to purchase AEDs for all the middle schools and high schools because they have to have them in every site that we're playing on. And then next year we have to replace all the pads. So that's something that, moving forward between batteries and pads, there's always gonna be something to make sure that our AEDs are compliant. One other thing under supplies is we're looking at purchasing a new pair of soccer goals. We have one of our sets of soccer goals is 10 plus years old, and we've had to make some repairs over the last few years by hiring a welder and trying to put these goals and make sure they are put back together and safe. But at this point, I think as a safety concern, it's time to replace one set of goals so we're not calling a welder, we're not making repairs to it and getting a new set. And then the other thing that, not a huge thing, but I do want to add a new program for next year, and the new program is unified basketball. This is a program that will give our students another opportunity to participate, but it's also going to be specific where we're giving students in our life skills and transition program another opportunity to play a sport. Our unified track program has been excellent. We have between 40 and 50 kids in that program every spring. And this past year, Special Olympics and the MIA came together for a unified basketball program. We didn't join because I didn't budget for it and we weren't ready. But after talking to other ADs in our league, because there's over 10 schools in our league that have it, they said that those events were the best events they hosted during the fall season. So this is something that I definitely want to, jump on, add this opportunity. It's a short schedule. It's about a month and a half long, and it'll give our kids another thing, to participate in. So those are kind of the big things, and like I said, we do have some shifts across the budget, which is why a few things have increased.
Why don't you talk about that so we don't have to ask our obnoxious questions? Are you talking about the transportation component?
Transportation has shifted, police details. We have moved our officials from revolving to high school user fees for next year. Those are the three major shifts.
So, you know what, Pat, in the transportation section, can you please put note in there, because it looks like all of a sudden we're paying for transportation where we didn't before.
Okay.
That would be, because I know that people do look at this, and I just want them to have the understanding before. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, those are the three major ones that we've moved: transportation, police, and officials and the user fees.
So talk to me about the carpet for the field, because that was one of my questions. Is we started a revolving account for to drop money into that account every year. What is in there? What did we commit to? And do you remember? Does anybody remember? I know we did.
Right, this is the first year that we've budgeted for it.
And what?
And that would be, and you'll see the.
Where is it on here? Do you know?
It's in the admin section, which I will do.
Oh, all right.
I'll get to that.
All right, so don't let me forget, because I want to know what that is, because I think that's really important.
The stabilization fund you're talking about.
Exactly, I'm sorry, thanks for that. Okay, good. And then, can you just remind us what the percent participation of the student body is in any of the, I don't care what level of athletics it is?
Total?
Yes.
So we average about 350 students per season. And it's right about a little more than 50% of our student body participates in at least one sport.
Okay, regardless of whether it's...
Regardless of level or what it is.
Right,
yes.
Okay, so that's important for people to know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the only question I have that kind of comes up here, but I'm going to mention it, but then we can talk about it in the admin section, is the stipend review. I'm not questioning the stipends themselves. I just need to have, and it's not your stipends, it's just, we've talked about this for years, right? We've talked about what are we doing with stipends. If we could just take a look at what is the district, across the district, doing with stipends, who, not individuals, but what types of positions are getting them? What is there a point of view? Do we have a process on what, or is it just kind of like dependent upon it? And we don't have to answer it now, but
I was going to say, that'll take a whole session.
That I think is something we need, and I don't know, and I'm asking you guys this, do we do this, and if so, we're going to end up moving something really off of a school committee meeting. Do we look at that now? Do we look at that after the budget is approved, which I'm feeling much more comfortable with? And then after the budget season's done, we look at, okay, now let's look at stipends for next year's budget planning. But I think we need to look at stipends. What do you guys think? What do you guys think?
I don't think I would touch it for this year. I think it's okay. I would go forward wherever we land in March, and then perhaps in April you can pick it up and take a look at it.
But you guys understand where I'm going with this? Are you in agreement? How do you feel about it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's all my dribbling questions. Who's got questions? Yep, Lynn. Oh, you know what? Let me do Elise. Thank you. Did you get questions?
Mine's super quick because I remember talking about the dryer and laundry issues last year, and you bringing home all the kids' uniforms and washing them. So there's, which bless you.
Especially the bloody ones.
So is this a last year we budgeted, and then this new one is for a new dryer somewhere else, or is it to continue
because last year when I was working with the facilities director, the quotes that came in, they were only for, like, let's go to Home Depot and pick up a washer dryer.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I started talking to different companies, and actually Rob and I have been working, and we've had some come in, the quotes are a lot more than what we expected. So that's why we need industrial size for our locker room area, and that's why there's a dryer in there.
Okay, so they're never purchased.
No.
So this will be $6,000 to get what you need.
It's actually $12,000 for a new washer and dryer.
12,000?
$12,000.
Y'all need to go to Sears.
Well, that's
See, that's the problem.
But that
was the problem in the first place. Is
You're not using commercial ones?
No, so right now we have just a regular washing machine and a dryer, but the dryer, the heating coil isn't working, so to dry something it takes 3 or 4.
Do you want my dryer? I mean, I might as well give all my stuff away.
Bring it on over. But that was our first set of quotes last year. And they were not industrial size.
Right.
That's
So
why
you did purchase something?
No, we're using our old stuff right now.
So
it's not energy efficient either?
No.
So Tanya's still taking them home, half of them.
I'm helping with my coaches that are helping me taking stuff home.
That doesn't answer the question. So this $3,000 wasn't used, so you have that sitting there, and then you've got another $3,000 coming to go towards this $12,000 that you need for the washer dryer. Okay, because nothing was purchased last year.
It's currently right now. And we just, like I said, we just got quotes, I think, last week.
So you could actually use that money and then this ask would drop?
Yep.
Okay, well, that's what you're gonna do, right, Bruce?
I'm not sure that this is coming out the way that it's.
Well, what we asked for last year was not enough to cover industrial size.
But I think what Lynn's thinking though is that $3,000 is just hanging out there, sitting out there somewhere.
Because you didn't spend it.
And because you didn't spend, and that's not how our budget. That's not how it works. So I mean, the bottom line is that
I think you better back up.
No, I'm just saying.
Well, for example, like
rephrase.
Like the trainer's cart came in at $8,500 instead of the $8,000. So we've spent, $500 more on a trainer's cart than what we expected the quote to come in at. Because quotes change every year. That's what's really hard with, I think, especially in my situation, where if you get a quote in October, when you look at, come July 1 the following year, that can change. And that's what's tough with athletics, I think, is when you change.
I think you speak about a lot of things. It's not just athletics, Tanya, so I appreciate you bringing that up. But I think that the thinking here is that, that money is, and it is, but I mean, at our year end, that money all comes together, and then that's when it goes back into the E&D. So that $3,000, for example, would be, it would still be here with us somewhere, or potentially a part of it, but it's gone back in. So it's not like it builds, because it doesn't build, if that's what you're thinking. And I think that that's what you're indicating, but I'm not sure.
We've been talking about ask versus actual, and so like this particular one would be ask and then 0 or something because you didn't use it. That would be my thought. I mean, I'm not an accountant. So for a $12,000 unit, and she's only asking $3,000, I'm thinking, oh, okay, she's got 6. And she's got the other half somewhere else. I have no idea, but that's where I'm going. But I have to give him such a hard time about the concession stand.
Well, I don't think there's anything untoward here. I think
I don't think so at all.
I think this is for me. It's management of the budget, right? This is not you, please remove yourself from here.
Okay.
Not
I
physically,
know.
but if this is what we earmarked and money wasn't, and the money wasn't used and it was shuffled somewhere else, then there is a question as to, well, then did you really need it? So why would you need it now? And we would need to see that through line as to where that money that was earmarked did go. Where did it go? I think that's what I'm, and I'm
Actually,
reading your face, Elaine.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
But can I ask a quick clarifying question? The 12,000 is for an industrial washer and an industrial dryer, right? The total, and right now what you're asking for is an additional 3,000 because previously you had thought it would be a little bit cheaper to replace the dryer, and now the dryer itself is more about 6,000. So that's right. The 12,000 is washer plus dryer, is that right? And so what you're asking for right now is just to take you up to the 6,000 so that you can get the dryer. Not the water, but you may come back in future years and ask for the washer.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about is so germane to what we're supposed to be doing. What we were talking about, I just want to separate the two, is a much more philosophical discussion.
Right.
So I just want to make sure, right? Because the philosophical discussion is the sensitive discussion for all of us. What you're saying is absolutely in line with what we should be doing now. So we need to get a little more visibility into exactly what the financials are in order for us to make some of those decisions. And I don't necessarily think that just because we spent X this year means it should dictate what we spent last year, because everything's up for grabs,
it always
right?
changes. Yeah.
So, but I think, and for some reason, I feel like last year we did have another column or two, or maybe it was because we did all that work at the end of the year with Pat on restructuring the way. So those monthly statements should reflect this.
Yeah, but they're at a macro level, so that's part of the problem. Things get.
Yeah, but everything rolls up into these. This is an Excel spreadsheet, right?
So it's hard for us to look at $3,000 for a washing machine as the athletic department budget is rolled up into one line. That's part of the problem. And it was part of the problem last year, and it was, we don't get to see actuals and, well, the way they call it, what they call it is actual to date and commitments for the rest of the year, like you can do that in
So my question has to do with the high school sports revolving account. Do we actually have a list of a running account of what that's going to cover? Because that can be pretty substantial, and yet we're paying for the football, police detail, and refurbishing of equipment. And, and I thought we were
from the gate receipts.
Yeah.
So in revolving?
So is
the police detail
different?
Is the police detail covered by the gate receipts?
So for FY20, I've moved police details back into the police details line into the regular budget.
So what are the gate receipts covering?
So right now for revolving for next year, it's the track debt offset of $125,000, and then the administrative assistant for athletics.
That's in your bright green.
All right, so hold on a second. So wait, so does it make sense though for money that's coming in through the gate for the games to not be spent on aspects of the game? So like, I don't know, frankly, I'm questioning, this is not you. I'm questioning, why are we taking gate receipt money and applying it to the salary and the comp for a employee, which that is to me a variable, and it should be in a different. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, anything coming in through the gate receipt should be used, and I think we've talked about this before, for the games.
Right. But one thing that probably hasn't even been mentioned here is that that fund grew over a number of years. And we've been using the funds every year to offset something. Ultimately, it's probably, we take in about, I don't know, about $60,000 a year that get deposited against that account. So at some point in time, it's not going to cover the track debt.
Right, but I think, Pat, I hear what they're saying. I think, I do absolutely see what Lorraine's saying, and I think that that's probably something, to be honest with you, I think you should go back and just do a double check with the auditor, because I think it's a valid point. Do I recall, though, when we talked about the stabilization fund for that track, did this very discussion not come up at that time? Do you remember? Because I thought that was part of it.
We were gonna drop extra money
I understand
in.
that.
We haven't funded that at all yet.
Well, it'll come, but we're gonna drop extra money into that stabilization fund, irrespective of the gate receipts.
Right.
But I'm concerned that this is dangerous. Like for me, I got PTSD over it from where we were and you and I think, are the only ones that were here. We really need to keep this clean, like really, really clean. It'll set people off, most likely me and Lynn and Kathy.
We'll do a double check with the auditor, because I absolutely understand where they're coming from with that. Yeah.
And I'm having a problem with using the gate receipts for the track debt, because the track debt was rolled into the $2.2 million from the towns, and the towns already paid, they're paying that. So why is that being covered by the?
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah, that's interesting, yeah.
We gotta clean it up, just because.
I think we might want to do a rethink on that, Pat.
Please.
We'll take a look back at it.
Because I don't think there's anything untoward, but the longer it goes on without it being very clear, the more it will be perceived that there is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll do a follow-up on that next week.
Okay, thank you. You did a great job. It's okay. This is all this is what we have to do. Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you, Tanya.
All right. Food services, Tom's like, I ain't going up there.
Wearing my lead pants.
All right, let's roll.
Thank you. So on a happier note, thank you so much for letting me talk about what I love to do, and that's school nutrition here at Neshoba Regional. What we have happening for FY 20, we did just increase the meal costs, actually as of January 1 this year, at our middle schools and high schools and staff. We're going to continue our drive to increase participation by using cutting-edge menus and concept meals. We're going to continue our collaboration with extended learning as well as any other program that we can, and we're looking at a combination with the special education department and teaching and learning as well. And we hope to continue our relationship with some of the local farmers in the area to bring our students and staff the freshest and best products that we can. And with all of these things in action, we're hoping to keep the ball rolling in a positive manner and not ask for any money and just
you don't have to
serve
not
kids.
want to ask. We're okay with you asking for money if you need it.
Yeah, but right now, the way things are, we're doing very well.
All right, so we've got a lot of asks on here, Mr. I'm not asking for money. So why don't you take us through it?
Where would you like to start?
Let's start on your slide. Let's go through your slide.
Let's see.
Did you cover everything that was on the slide? Okay, then I'm sorry. I apologize.
What do you want? What would you like? What do you need?
Well, I am looking at an increase in my own salary as well as staff, their contracted salary. The reason being, over the past, can you believe I've been here 9 years? Isn't that cool?
Okay, so keep going.
So we're looking at that. We're looking at a little bit of an increase in substitutes. We're looking at a 10% increase in contracted services, and that's because we have a lot of aging equipment. Contracted services covers the repairs and parts for that. Provisions went up approximately 2%, and that's the average. We have a 5% increase in supplies. That's because of the tariffs and things that are going on in politics. Clothing allowance is the same. We went up a little bit in equipment, and that again is to just continue to buy updated and and new equipment as needed, and small wares, things under $5,000 that aren't anything big or capital for the district or the towns. Our dues and mileage stayed the same. Meal tax, we're hoping that we'll be paying out more because we will be serving more adult meals. And reimbursements are congruent to what we serve. So with the increase in participation, we'll see an increase in reimbursement. And that's all I got.
That's awesome. So I have some questions. So if we have a surplus,
yes,
do we put that money into a separate account in order to help offset expenses for any additional equipment, et cetera, et cetera? What happens to that money?
We have a balance that's allowable by the Food and Drug Administration in regards to that. And they allow us to have 3 months worth of expenditures in reserve, and we have reserve.
Okay. And then what happens when we go above the 3 months? Where does it?
We have to spend it on, reinvest into the program.
Okay.
And that's why over the years, we've invested in new serving lines, signage,
our entire
things to
POS
enhance the program.
system, all of that was paid through those funds. So we currently have 3 months operating expenses, which is good because nobody knew how long the shutdown was going to last.
Yeah.
And we here at Neshoba, we would be able to take ourselves through to the summer. And that's why you want to have that 3 months. Anything over that has to be reinvested into the program.
All right, well, nice job. Thank you. I hope we're listening to I know you do, so it's not a criticism. Why am I saying this, like defending myself all day long? But I hope you're listening to the kids and what they want and what they're interested in. I do think that I see things all over social media that you're very responsive to the parents, so I appreciate that as well.
As much as possible. That's the fun part. We can speak on many different things, and although they all have legitimate concerns, the best part is once it's explained and they understand it.
Right. Knowledge.
It's fantastic.
Lynn?
He's asking for a 2% increase in raises, and I'm just wondering, aren't they part of the union?
That's right.
So would this be an addition?
No, it's not addition.
So we need to take it out.
That's just the increase that it would actually cost. It's not an increase.
Okay.
It's a contracted or contractual.
Then does it come out of your admin budget for increases, salary?
No, it's contractual.
Oh, they're contracted versus employee. Got it. So sorry. Contracted versus employee. That makes sense.
Okay, and so I'm looking at, so you're self-sustaining right now.
Yeah, he's in surplus.
Okay, that's fine. And
So we can let him go. Let him go.
No, he's perfect. I just want to ask Pat this. So
Let him go!
You can keep 3 months in reserve. So do you currently have 3 months in reserve?
Yeah, well, you said that.
So is that the 48,000 that I'm looking at? Is that the reserve we're talking
No,
about?
this is the ask, Lynn. We're going to get to that.
Okay.
We're done with that.
Okay.
Have off with you, darling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, Tom.
You too. Moving on.
Raina.
Extended day. Raina, make it happen.
Hello, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to be here again. I was here twice before, so I've shared with you some information about our program and our improvements. So I'm going to do a little bit of repeat, but I'll try to keep it brief. So our goal for extended learning is, again, to continue offering a self-sustaining program that provides diverse enrichment opportunities and also supports social-emotional learning. And our budget this year is level with last year, and it supports this goal. As approved at my last, I think it was, the last time in front of the school committee, we will be increasing our tuition by 3%. That'll be effective July 1, and that was reviewed prior. In terms of our enrollment, I wanted to share with you that we're about the same as last year, about 300 students. But what is different is we've experienced a 31% increase with kindergartners, which does definitely changes staff dynamics and programming. It's a good thing. It's just it's good to know that that's in fact a reality. To ensure we're meeting our goal, I did conduct, as promised to the school committee, a family parent survey, and that was done in January of this year. And I was very pleased. We got a 36% response rate, which is pretty significant. That's about 100 families out of the 300. And the key findings that I believe are important to note is that 90% of those who responded, 90% rated our program either very high or extremely high in quality. There are a number of dimensions. Families also rated our free, we did offer this year a few free performances, which everyone likes the free word, and that was rated very high. 43% of the families participated in our fee-based multi-Richmond program, so which means 54% did not. I'd like to see that number go up. I'd like to see more families giving their kids opportunities to spark interest. Another key insight was families at the Hale School, where we have our 4th and 5th graders. They would like more programs that are specific to that age group. We did build a citizenship and connecting community program for those 4th and 5th graders, and we'll see how that plays out this year to see if we want to expand that for next year. Some of our parents have been asking for a 6th grade to increase to include 6th grade. We haven't done that. We need to think about that a little bit more. That may impact how we move forward with the program. Families at the Mary Rowlandson Elementary School, they want more affordable programs. And by programs, I'm talking about the enrichment programs. And overall, the families want more, no surprise, STEM, sports, and I was glad to see this, cultural activities and Spanish. That was identified in the survey. So with this feedback, my submitted 2020 budget really shows just a slight increase in enrichment and contract services to continue to offer low cost and high quality programs that add value. I also want to continue to provide some of the free performances that we did this year, which was like the Sahori weaving, math science, spectacular, because what I've seen, and it's very evident to me in listening to the families, is that when their kids experience something that's exciting, it sparks interest, and it gets them more engaged and feel comfortable, then they might wish to take a chance and sign up for a multi-enrichment program. So one feeds into the other. Also, we did offer this year 2 different programs for our middle school children, which was feedback we got from the community. We offered yoga, which was well received. It was just a pilot program, and I'm rolling it out to all middle school students this spring. And we're piloting a woodworking course, which I'm really excited about. And that's starting in March. It's a lottery, it's a pilot, hoping that those programs get enough traction that I can see expanding them for next year.
Is this, excuse me one second, is that Bob from Bolton?
And Patrick.
Yes,
Patrick.
yes.
Yeah, awesome.
I went
Thank
on
you
the
for
road
that.
with them this year, and it's been a lot of fun. The kids are excited, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, particularly the 6th and 7th. In any event, this year for me has been a learning curve. I'm very excited. It is level spending, but I think that we've made the right decisions based on family feedback, student engagement, and the learning that I'm witnessing with my staff.
Surveys can be so obnoxious, but do you ask for feedback from families?
No, that's what she was saying. Like, this is all based on surveys.
I asked 3 open-ended questions, so I had like 3 pages of very, very specific requests. Not all of which is reflected in this year's programming, but some has been responded to.
And when you ask them for the feedback, do you kind of let them know? I mean, your communications anyway, right? Do you let them know what the results of it were?
That's going to come in my next communication. I wanted to put it out.
Got it. That's why I asked. Okay.
Because we just put it out. January 11th was when the deadline, and I just analyzed the results in January 18th. So it's been like 3 days, 4, 5, 6 days, but. I'm glad. I got the feedback. I got much better results than I thought.
Okay.
Much better feedback.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So to piggyback on that, so when you send out the surveys, is it only to the students that are already in enrichment, or is it to everybody?
No, this was just to the extended learning families. That was the commitment, yeah.
Why would she know? She's extended learning. Why would she do it beyond the people she serves?
Because I think that the kids that aren't in extended learning, the parents are unaware of what's going on in the program.
I don't know.
So when you ask them,
I think those are 2 different things.
Yeah.
2 different things.
Our extended learning, our enrichment programs are just for the extended learning families, other than the middle school. And I did send out a separate question to the middle school parents, all middle school parents, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who aren't in extended learning, to say, would you like to have some programs? So that was a separate dialogue.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I know you wait for the best for the last.
That's for last.
You are the best. You and Tom get big old red gold stars. And I don't want Rob to feel bad, or I don't want Tanya to feel bad. We love you both. It's fine. It's how it works. It's fine. It's not you personally. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Raina.
Thanks, Raina. All righty.
Anne Marie.
Anne
Marie or Pat? You coming up together?
We are.
Pat and Anne Marie, awesome.
Pat, all right, here we are. And now I'm gonna be quiet and let the superintendent run her.
So.
Did you hear that?
No.
Just for the record, now I'm gonna be quiet. Steve goes, huh.
I did not get that.
Huh, bet she can do that.
So I'm just going to tee it up just really quickly here, but I do want to remind our school committee members that, and I said this at the beginning, but as you've walked through it, this is not, we have not taken the opportunity now to go through and have our individual meetings to take a look at where we start to carve away. The whole point of this particular meeting came back from years ago when you said, we want to see what everyone asks for.
Right.
And so that's why you've got what you got. So please keep in mind that there's no way that, I'm not sure where this landed because I know that it was around 7.2%. There is no way that that is a feasible budget that we can move forward. But you'll recall that, I need to go back now with my team and with individual meetings, and you've got a flavor of what the asks are,
right,
and what you're gonna support and the priorities. But we need now to go and really do the drill down. This is a blueprint. You've seen what everything's been asked for. But there's no way that this budget can move forward as it is. So I just really want to be clear, because that's when you'll start to see over the course of the next, not this next meeting, but probably the meeting thereafter, you'll start to see different iterations, which is what we've done in the past. We've brought forward and said, yeah, here are the areas we've made the cuts in already. And the cuts don't mean that it's cuts to a staff, it means to what the ask was.
Right. So I'm glad you said that, because before Superintendent Clenchey came, this isn't necessarily, we had discussions like 2 or 3 times and then we were kind of done. What we didn't hear was the voice of the field, right? So that is why we have this meeting. So while you're going out and you're talking to folks in your towns, or you're talking to your select friends or whomever, if they say, oh my God, I heard the budget's going up 7%. No, it's not. That was our opportunity to hear from anyone, regardless. We're not looking at the actual final assessment numbers to the town. We want to, because when Brooke comes back and she brings her folks back in, what we're gonna be able to do is go, oh, I remember when Tanya asked for X, and I remember when Rob said Y. That's what they're talking about. It gives you some level of understanding and context. We didn't have that before. We need that now.
Right.
It will serve us well. So that's what the point is. So
and that's exactly right.
That.
Yeah. So even as Pat goes through her numbers right now, because and I asked her, I said, there's no need for her to go through every single line on this. Just highlight a couple of salient points, because we're wrapping up, and so you've heard the major ask. She's just going to kind of try to pull it a little bit together, and she and Anne Marie will kind of help be there to support any other questions. But just so that you know that this is going to change. And I don't know how many iterations we did last year. We did a number of iterations before the school committee. I think it was just about every other school committee meeting, quite frankly, until the March meeting.
Yeah, and we added a couple.
Yeah. So just to be clear, that's one of the reasons why we don't have 100 copies of this going out everywhere. The copies are sitting around this table. Nobody else has copies.
So are you guys going to take us, go ahead.
So Pat and Anne Marie, can I turn it over to you folks, please? Anne Marie, start.
Wanted to thank you for the opportunity to sit here with our partners across the hall in the business office and to support their work. And Vicki and Darcy were here earlier, most especially in case the principals needed to call on them for some figures. They're very generous with their time as far as that goes. For our office, we have 6 people six teachers who have announced their intention to retire and who are eligible for the retirement bonus, so that will be 6 times $10,000. We can do that one in our head. $60,000 will go for that. The lane changes aren't due in our office until the end of the month, but right now we've got requests. Lane changes are when people go from a bachelor's degree to a master's degree, or when they get educational attainment. We have $24,000 right now in requests for lane changes, but the teachers have got until the end of the month to finish those, so that could change. I think I'm speaking to you at your February 13th meeting and the HR update, and I'll probably have a better figure on that by then.
Okay. So thank you again for the opportunity to present this budget this morning. And this is a work in process as we talked about over and over again. Any comments that you, or questions that you have on everything else that has been presented today, I might be able to answer some of them, and I can do that after I just go through this very quickly. You'll see a small change in the OPEB assessment, and that is because last year, this current year, we had some money in withholding that was set aside for, it was like a liability that other communities were sharing. That money was used to come up with the $50,000 that we had been committing to OPEB year after year.
So yeah, what I want to understand is what did we drop into OPEB last year? I know what we voted, what did we vote and then we put extra in, didn't we?
I think it was 100,000. I just have to double check, but I think we put 100,000 in last year.
I think we need to make that, right now, for me, that number needs to be increased.
Okay.
That 50,000 is not appropriate based on our ARC. I mean, we aren't even meeting.
No, we know that.
We're not, I know we know that, but we're not meeting our annual, let alone yeah, I don't even want to say the word deficit because it's blah. So for me, it's like that needs to go up because we had committed to increasing every year, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I thought we looked at it, there was a number, and then if there was additional, because this is why this is confusing me, that there was a number, and if there was an additional money left over, that would get put into it. So it'd be the 50 plus whatever, or whatever that.
Well, that was from health insurance, but that's not going to happen because health insurance.
That's not reflected here.
Right.
I agree with her.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying. It was like, I thought originally it was from health insurance, but.
No, there was a number, whatever's left over, and she's talking about, is that the 38,000 you're talking about?
Yes, it was
left over?
in the budget.
That should be 85.
No,
Because
it should be more than that because we put more than 50,000.
Last year we put 85 in.
Oh, we did?
At year end, I think we put.
FY18?
We put 50 money in
But
last
this
year.
isn't reflected here. This is.
No, but this
is the budget.
This is the budget line. It's got nothing to do with anything
That's
extra.
why actuals we need.
Yeah.
This
No,
section.
That was last year though.
So I think what might help, Pat, is if we actually say, I would lay out OPEB to date. Maybe that's what we need, is like an
we'll lay it out.
OPEB to date, have her show exactly, so that you haven't lost track of where we're at.
Please, yeah.
And you know exactly what we've got sitting in that account right now.
Because that's a huge liability for the three towns, almost more than anything else.
And I support the notion of bumping
They
that
have the
account
zero
up.
level.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Also, I think, didn't at the end of last year, at the end, I'm trying to remember in June, she showed us how much under budget we were. X amount of dollars went into E&D. But then we also took and put 50,000 into track and
Stabilization,
field,
yep.
the two stabilization funds that have been approved, track and field and OPEB. So that's over and above what we had budgeted
Right.
for last year. So in reality, we once again, the numbers are not telling me the story that I need to know.
Which is why we're gonna get it.
And we've had this problem, we had this problem last year.
But I think that's, so, yeah, it's not, I mean.
So there already is money in the in the track and field stabilization fund.
Correct.
But it wasn't budgeted for this year, is what you're saying. So how do we need to be kept abreast of what these things are.
So maybe you can give us that view for OPEB and then give us that view for the stabilization fund that we established last year. That's a good point.
That's easy enough for us to do. Did you want her to continue work?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You can see that there's a slight increase in legal, and that's based on current trends. Transportation is contractual. We have a reduction in our McKinney-Vento, and that's based on our current experience. Debt service is declining. Unit A and C tuition reimbursements, that's all contractual. Charter and choice assessments, you can see that those are the numbers that were released on Wednesday. They're preliminary numbers. This could change. And as far as, I'm just going to move on to insurance and have you ask me questions afterwards. Unemployment costs have gone up because it's based on current trends. Worcester County Retirement Assessment, that we got that a couple of weeks ago, and that's based on the assessment that Worcester County Regional Retirement gave us.
So what's that?
That's for our retirees.
No. What is, talk to me about the numbers, because I might not have been here. And I would slap myself if I were,
So you want her to talk about these last couple that she was just talking about?
Yeah.
So the Worcester County Retirement, for example, is that one that you were asking about, or the unemployment insurance?
We're on this page, guys, at the beginning of the book.
Yep, they are.
Elaine and Steve.
Executive
Very.
Section 1.
It was right, section
First
1.
page.
Got it, guys?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
also in the back, so
It's
that's
also in the back, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was too until Brooke helped me
So
out.
you're working off of this?
Yeah, we're working
on
with
the
the,
portal, huh?
behind tab 1.
So for the insurance, we're down to the Worcester Retirement Incentive. It's actual, Worcester County Retirement Assessment has gone up about $60,660. Medicare, that's all based on salaries across the district. Health insurance is another big one. You'll see that there's, it looks like it's a reduction, when in fact, last year when we budgeted for health insurance, I budgeted at a higher number than our experience came in, and then factor also into that, the school choice revenue that we have coming in is offset in that line. And
And you also have people that drop off or people that move. I mean, it's a number that's just moving all the time.
Anyway, and then any of the programs across the district that have retirement, the revolving programs, that would also be offset in that line, so. Now, does anybody have any questions about any of these items?
A lot of questions, but I think I'm not ready to ask them. I need to digest this.
Yeah, sorry, why does school choice revenue get offset into benefits and insurance?
School choice, it's very different than any of the other revolving funds. If you have revenue come in for school choice, you can then use it for anything in your budget. You can charge expenditures against that revenue. So it's very different than the assessment that we get. You can use the assessment as an expenditure in your budget. And it's clearly spelled out that it has to be done that way in Mass General Law.
So we just chose to offset against insurance and benefits?
Yes.
So let's have a point of view on that. And I think it's something we need to bring up, so guys, keep me honest, or Brooke, you can put it on an agenda. Because school choice is so fluid, putting it against a program, a one-time program, or a one-time big expense makes sense, but putting it against something that's above the line in the budget makes me nervous, because then we rely on it and it's not there, which is what happened, right? Right?
Well, yes, because the fund grew, the revenue grew in the fund.
But it could also be the reverse, too.
Right, and we're at the point right now where we're using what comes in.
Why aren't we offsetting it to the kids that are coming, that are choosing in? You know, versus the kids that are choosing
At some
out.
point in time, this is where we chose, and so just for consistency, we've stayed with that.
You know, that makes sense, that first and foremost, it should offset the kids that are leaving.
I think it's a really valid point, and I think this is another thing I would check with the auditors, because I know that that's past history, but I would take a look now and see if it's time to change that.
Yeah, just
So,
make it
yeah.
its own responsibility.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it makes sense to do that too, Lynn. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all one anyway. It's just kind of where you move it. But I would check with.
But it's easier to track. It's easier.
No, I totally agree.
Right? No, not just this, but all of it, right? So
And
it's
the
like
health
it makes
insurance
sense. Even the gate receipt stuff. Poor Tanya's gonna be so upset. Yeah.
So are we going to, I might have jumped ahead, we're just in insurance, right?
We're gonna let Pat finish.
Well, I finished.
Oh,
I
she's
finished with
done.
the insurance.
All right, so what else? Questions? We have so many follow-up components here, right?
And what you could do too, and I think you've done this before too, Lorraine, is you've had people send because it's a lot to digest, and to sit here inside of, the 4 hours that we've been here, it's a lot for you to digest. So and especially for those of you in your first year or two, I mean, for those of you a little bit more seasoned on the school committee, you're used to seeing this.
No, this is more information than we've ever had.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I'm serious. This makes more sense to me than it ever did.
Yeah.
But did you get down to legal? Or was it just?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I went past that.
Okay. All right, well, we're gonna go back.
We did talk about legal.
We want to talk, let's talk about legal, because, let's go to that, because you know what, I'm glad you said that, because I saw it and I circled it. And go back up there, where is it?
It's on the first page.
Anne Marie's? Yeah.
No, we're all looking at this.
I'm looking at this one though, because it's easier for me.
It popped out on this one,
My brain can't absorb. So our voted budget for FY19 for legal services was $60,000. What was our, well, we don't know what our actual was, but what is it year to date? Do you know?
Can't tell me maybe right now.
All right, so while she's looking that up, because then we're increasing it to 75,000, which still seems conservative to me, but I'd like to know where we are year to date, if that's okay.
Yeah.
To
She should be able
understand
to- she should
the
be able to find
relationship.
it.
And Lenny?
So the NRHS debt service. So
The which?
that's the old 2000,
The high school debt service.
yeah, can we get a breakdown of where we're at with that?
That would be that's another one that probably, I would love to see the history on that and where we're at to date. So I think that's a bigger thing than this meeting too. I think that would be great.
Sure, and there's a lot of information on that.
So our legal actual right now is at $44,780. However, we have only received invoices through October. I think they're a little bit delayed.
Okay. So I want to stop for a second and talk about this line item. And I really want to make sure that we're very open and transparent about this. I will be careful. If our voted was 60,000, and as of end of the month, October 2018, our legal line item was what?
$44,780.
So 45K. Then in essence, we have November, December through June. We have 8 months we've got to cover we've got $15,000 to cover 8 months worth of legal expenses. There is no concern as to whether or not we're being prudent with our legal budget. That's not a concern because the district's being forced into positions where it must defend itself. I have no questions. Do any of you have any questions about that? If not, my concern is how do we know that $75,000 is going to be enough for FY20, given the fact that we are not even accounting for half of the year's legal expenses? And I think that that is a line item that needs to be increased, and I think we need to be prepared for the public to ask us questions about it, why we're doing it, and what the concerns are. I really feel strongly about this because what's the worst thing that could happen is that we lowball this number and we get down the line and it's like, well, what the heck is happening? And it's not that the district isn't managing its legal budget well, it's that the district is being forced to defend itself.
That's absolutely right. To be honest with you, I tend to feel the same as you do. I would be very comfortable to move that because, I mean, I just know what I know that's happened in the last couple of months, and that 15,000 is gonna, I bet you it's already done, to be honest with you. So I would also suggest that we take a refresh look at that line.
No, don't be conservative with it. Like, that's one where double it.
At the time when I put that number in, I thought that I was
yeah, I'm sure.
Not being really conservative.
I'm
that
sure.
I was being realistic about it.
Yeah,
where it was going to land.
But we've had a
based
number
on what has just come in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, and if it looks like things are going to alter course, then you can reduce that later on, right?
Yeah, I would completely agree with you. I really think that we need to go back and have another look at that line.
Okay.
I don't know, can we ask about the legal breakdown? I mean, can we, I'm only worried about, are we doing things that we can avoid leak? I mean, are we doing all the right stuff? I mean, I don't know.
You and I will talk offline.
Okay.
Okay. Are we good?
I'm good. Thank you.
Anything else on that?
And I'd also just like to make mention about the changes in funding from grants. Again, it's unknown, especially with the federal grants, and that we don't know what these numbers are, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we might have a better idea. So that could physically change these numbers.
Okay.
So, to the good.
You want to talk about the track and field?
Track and field.
Oh, track and field.
Oh, track and field. The carpet, it's good. We got to keep it. I mean, we bought it. We need to maintain
Like
it.
that stabilization fund is.
What about the track? Because I know last year it was looking kind of worn, and I'm sure it's gotten even worse this year. When are we going to do that? Resurface the track? Oh, I sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Well, you're right on point.
Is it in here?
It's not in there, it'd be in for 2021.
Is that a conscious decision, or because you want to push it off because you have bigger things that are more important?
No, I think based off the condition of the track right now, I feel that we can get through 2021.
You do?
Yes.
Do you do too?
Who checks
Oh yeah, we talk about this very.
Okay.
We work very closely on this dynamic.
So you know what? When you do that little one pager for us that says safety, because that's all Lisa, safety, other, non-safety critical, and then below the line, it's like, oh, and by the way, don't forget this is coming, because that's a biggie. Okay, that's good. What else?
Well, the number's weird. I mean, the request is 49.7 for the track and field.
I like that it's got not a round number at the end of it, but where are we?
Yeah, but this is the stabilization fund. Or no, this is the debt service. We're back to, this is on the towns. Why is this was the $2.2 million to pay for the field and the football.
Where are we?
I'm on the second page.
Yeah.
Under account name, it says high school track and field debt service.
Yeah.
Right? So the towns paid $2.2 million for the field, the track.
Is this maintenance? Or is it?
It's bond service.
Debt service. The towns paid it, but how do you think, the towns would have paid it through our budget, not through.
Okay.
Right? They would have paid it through our budget because that we own. So it's not like Center School got a brand new track and field and y'all are paying for that.
Right.
So when it's a district level or when it's the high school specifically, because we own the high school, it comes through our budget.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, no, good question though.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Once again, I'll ask, how long do we have to pay for this thing?
Where are we?
I wish Ricky was here.
You know what, why don't we do an update on that for you?
We can do it on all the, yeah.
Will you guys remember all these things we're asking for? Will you remember? Because I'm not going to remember it all.
I have it all.
And my peeps here aren't going to remember it all because we're saturated.
I think we ask for that regularly or yearly or something like that.
Yeah, where we are on all debt service.
I think I report that out.
Good one, Stephen, again. All right, so.
And one other thing, the capital requests that have been submitted to the towns, they're preliminary because we haven't had any conversations. They're in the back flap.
So you're going to keep us posted on where those conversations land?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Let's do a quick recap of the things we know we would like our friends, the administration, to come back. First of all, I don't even want to say thank you because it doesn't speak to what the value of this day has been and the amount of preparation and the dedication, and frankly, it feels really good to hear from people who are really focused on the right things. So to all of you, thank you very much, because kids are why we're all here, and you just illustrate that in everything you do. So if I could take them all home and raise them, I would, but I can't. So I appreciate that. I think we want to hear about just the additional staffing as a bucket. Like, what are all the staffing requests as a bucket?
Some of those positions may not make it to the next
They may not.
iteration, so
No. So you're going to do what you're going to do. I'm saying when you come next, we want to see all those staffing positions in a bucket. Some of the one-off conversations we want to have throughout our other discussions are, other meetings are, what's our point of view on textbooks versus online in this upcoming cycle? We don't have to get down to a philosophical discussion, some a little bit, but we would kind of want to understand, to Elaine's point, when are we using textbooks, when are we using online, when are we augmenting, and when, you know what I mean? We just need to understand where you're at.
I was thinking about that too, and I'm not sure if this is where you want to go, but as you were talking about it at that time, I thought, probably want to make sure that we bring our principals into that, because you know, they really will drive, like the high school especially is its own beast, right? So to have that discussion without like Paul or a department chair or two in the room, I don't think would be wise. I think you really need the people that know. So.
Yeah, that's good. And then on technology, we really need a deeper understanding of what's going on there. It's not to say that we're not being transparent. It's more, we really need a lot more discussion on that.
It's a lot to take in, it really is.
And we also need to be able to project for where we're going to be going with it, because to Lynn's point, it's not something that, and we all know it's not going away. It's the way people do business. It's the way, you know, things work. Teaching and learning, was there anything I know? Facilities, Rob's area, because he's got so much going on this year. And I just want you to know one thing, Rob, truly, I think these buildings, I think we've all recognized these buildings were kind of ignored for a while. I think, you know, sometimes, and I'm not cramming anything on anybody else. My point is that sometimes you're focusing in one area, and if you're not minding all the other areas, things start to kind of deteriorate. But I really appreciate the fact that our buildings look like they never have, regardless of age. So that you're asking for these things doesn't mean that we're hackles are up. It's that we understand. We've seen already. You've already proven what you've been able to do. So please take the comments and the concerns and the questioning in the vein in which they're intended. And then I think you're going to bring back an update on the way we're positioning the asks, because we really aren't, because we really aren't able to understand what the ask one year versus next year means to us without understanding what we've spent, what the actuals were.
Okay.
We need to talk about that. And I know Brooke is, you guys get, but Brooke, we can't, because it's kind of like shooting in a, you know, it's kind of shooting in the dark a little bit.
We need to, this is going to take us some time to think through and plan, because the work, especially now, I mean, when you take a look at the fact that we have to have this all wrapped up in the next month.
I would say, why don't you take a look at what you can get done?
Yeah.
You know what, I mean, it's not just for the school committee, it's for the broader.
Right, no, I understand, and I think that, you know, I hear certainly about technology, I hear about facilities and such. I think that's what I'm saying. I think we need to go back and take, there are pieces here that I'm not disagreeing with Steve at all. I think we just need to go back and think it through so that it makes sense.
Well, why don't you start with those areas we've identified, and then, you know that that's probably where we need to be for next year, right?
Right, because we have to rebuild our budget document in order to insert something.
Understood. And I think, though, if we're presenting data one way monthly, it should be presented quarterly and annually in a similar vein, so that there is that, you know. So
if I can just, can I say something?
Sure.
Only when you're done.
I'm done.
Okay. The one thing I would bring up, and I appreciate your comments, I would say the other day we had our admin team, everybody that you saw here this morning came to meet for our regular meeting on Wednesday morning. And we started the meeting by saying, because we had a couple new folks that were going to be coming presenting for the first time, like Raina and Lisa, who said, I'd barely gotten my feet wet, I really didn't know what I was doing, and you know, and here she said she did a great job this morning, you know. And so we started that meeting by saying, okay, for those of you who are a little more seasoned, what are things that you would bring to the table? And it may have even been Rob, now that you're sitting here, so I'm going to say this, and I may even use it, so the various comments would come through, like make sure you're clear, make sure you're succinct, watch your time, you know, be informed, you know. So as we're kind of talking through, a couple of them role played and said, well, should I say this? No, that's probably not the best way of saying it, you know. But I think it was Rob or somebody else, might have been Rob, that said, and keep in mind that they're here to support us. that school committee is here to support us. They're here to work in partnership with us. And so when they come to the table, like, you know, the first group, when Ross started, and then Laura said, you know, how much we appreciate the support of this school committee, I cannot stress that enough, how much our administrative team so respects this committee and so appreciates the level of support that we receive. So they worked really, really hard for this, and I'm really, really proud of everybody that presented. You all did a great job. But I want to thank our school committee for asking the questions. We are okay. And when you take this home and you're looking over it, and if you find something that doesn't make sense to you, or just rifle it back to memory. That's
not
what
going home and looking through this.
That's what she said last time. You know, if you've got questions, rifle them all to her, and she'll rifle them all to us. Or if we find something that doesn't make sense, let us know, so that we continue to work to be better at our craft. And so I feel better even like this year, and we've said even our process this year was much smoother than any other year we've been in. But Pat and I still know that we're still tweaking. And this goes back to the forensic audit. We're still making changes. Some of the changes that are in here, quite frankly, are based on the audit. But then you had a couple of things come today. I thought, didn't think of that. You're absolutely right. We'll go back and talk to the auditor about that. I mean, it just makes us better.
Yeah.
It makes us stronger. I was really looking forward to today. I really was. No, I'm sorry, but I was. It just gives you such a beautiful view of this school district, which is an amazing school district. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Anne-Marie,
Thank you
Pat,
all.
Thank you so much.
And that staff pages,
It's right there.
Oh,
Here's the
all right.
photo.
We need to go through that at our next school committee meeting, or?
It's just a quick snapshot, and it's not even as long as last year's.
But Brooke's gonna do her magic.
We've not adjourned. Excuse me, did we have to adjourn or anything?
No. Yeah.
No workshop.
Yeah,
It's workshop,
it's a
so we don't
workshop,
need
but
to.
we opened it. but-
Yeah, you still have to adjourn.
We need to
Yeah, we do.
close the meeting. So can I have nice of you to just take off, big brother? Y'all need to stay and do the job. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Lynn did it and Steve
Second.
did it. I'm not even gonna ask for the vote. I'm just gonna make us All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Remember that